Chapter 620. Thousand Illusions. A dim light flashed in the depths of Duan Lingtian's eyes as he hastily utilized his soul skill. Now, he was purely treating a dead horse as if it were still alive. He didn't have the slightest confidence in his ability to break through this illusory space with his soul skill Thousand Illusions. At this instant, Duan Lingtian constructed an illusory space and enveloped himself. In the next moment, the scene before Duan Lingtian's eyes changed, and a boundless grassland appeared, and it was covered in fresh and crisp grass. A light breeze that carried the fragrance of grass blew over, causing one to feel refreshed and relaxed. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian noticed that the ground beneath his feet suddenly shook, and it was as if the earth was quaking. Following which, under his gaze, the illusory space created by the soul skill, Thousand Illusions, shattered into pieces. Along with it, the dazzling palace shattered as well. It was also the fifth test of wisdom left behind by the martial monarch. Congratulations, you've passed the fifth test. So long as you defeat the mirror puppet and pass the sixth test, which is also the final test, you'll be able to directly obtain my inheritance and leave this place. The martial monarch's voice sounded out from all directions, and it clearly entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. I passed just like that? Duan Lingtian was stunned. Up until now he was still slightly unable to recover from his shock. Earlier, when he utilized his soul skill Thousand Illusions, he didn't have the slightest confidence in being able to break through the illusory space left behind by the martial monarch. The outcome now was slightly unexpected to him. Mirror puppet. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian recovered from his shock, and he took a deep breath as slight fear appeared in his eyes. All along the way he'd already experienced two tests of strength. The first test of strength was the 100 pure ghastly puppets that he'd single-handedly slaughtered. The second test of strength was the earth puppet that possessed abnormal offensive and defensive strength. If it wasn't for him comprehending lightning concept in time, he would probably be unable to pass that test. From his previous experiences, this test of strength would become more and more difficult as he progressed. Now he would face the third test of strength, and it was also the final test. There's no doubt that this mirror puppet is stronger than the earth puppet, but I wonder how strong it is. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and mentally prepared himself. But at this moment, Duan Lingtian suddenly felt a fierce aura coming from ahead. When he raised his head and looked ahead, he was completely stunned. Heavens! What did he see? Now in front of Duan Lingtian, a person appeared out of thin air. To be more precise, it was a young man in purple. What shocked Duan Lingtian was that this purple-clothed youth seemed to be carved from the same mold as him. Even the details were almost identical. Regardless of appearance or height, there was no difference. Most importantly, there was an extremely ugly sword in the violet-clothed young man's hand. This sword base was exactly the same as the Grade 1 spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand. What's going on? Duan Lingtian was sure that there was absolutely nothing like a mirror before him. Moreover, his Grade 1 spirit sword was currently lying within his spatial ring. His eyes. Duan Lingtian, who felt extreme shock, raised his head slightly and looked at the eyes of the violet-clothed young man that looked exactly like him. The violet-clothed young man's eyes were empty and lusterless, and his entire body was stiff as if he didn't have a soul. This is a mirror inscription formation? The memories of Samsara Emperor Wu flashed within Duan Lingtian's mind, and he quickly obtained an answer. The mirror inscription formation was an extremely profound and unfathomable inscription formation. Normally speaking, only an inscription master at the martial monarch stage or above was able to set it up. This type of inscription formation was extremely overbearing, and it was a great tool to trick others. No matter who it was, so long as one stepped into the mirror inscription formation, one would encounter a mirror puppet that looked exactly like him and possessed all his abilities. Besides not having a soul, being unable to execute soul skills, and being immune to soul skills. This mirror puppet is practically no different from me. No matter if it's my ability or my battle instinct. Duan Lingtian looked at the mirror puppet before him and couldn't help but gasp. The most terrifying thing is that this mirror puppet will instantly undergo a transformation along with me. For example, when I faced the earth puppet earlier, I was only able to destroy it after I hastily comprehended lightning concept. Whereas if I were to fight my mirror puppet and comprehend an even higher level of concept, its concept would transform along with it. This is an opponent with a strength that's exactly the same as mine. The most terrifying thing is that it doesn't have a soul or thoughts, and it doesn't know fear at all. In its world there's only slaughter. Duan Lingtian's face was filled with fear. He knew that he would at most be able to fight an existence like this to a draw, and it was practically impossible for him to defeat the mirror puppet. If I could choose for myself, I would rather face 10 earth golems than my own mirror golem. Duan Ling Tian laughed bitterly. Right at this moment, Duan Ling Tian felt a fierce aura assault his face from ahead. It was his mirror puppet that had made a move against him. Swoosh. The mirror puppet's figure flashed and directly executed the high-grade earth rank movement technique it was most familiar with, pursuing shadow, and it arrived before Qin Shi in the blink of an eye. Sword drawing arts. The same sword drawing arts was executed by the mirror puppet without the slightest bit of disharmony. A sword light that was like a bolt of lightning followed him like a shadow. It wasn't just that, the sword light even contained the second-level wind concept, first-level lightning concept, and elementary earth force that Duan Ling Tian was familiar with. The icy coldness that assaulted his face caused Duan Ling Tian to be unable to help but shiver. Whirlwind. Duan Ling Tian hastily dodged, and the exceedingly swift sword light practically brushed past his face as it descended. An inconspicuous white mark appeared on his face. This dangerous scene caused Duan Ling Tian to instantly return to his senses. Whoosh. An extremely ugly sword base appeared out of thin air in Duan Ling Tian's hand, and it was precisely the Grade 1 spirit sword he'd obtained in the first test. Presently, Duan Ling Tian and the mirror puppet were like twins, and they were exactly the same from head to toe. The only difference was that the mirror puppet's eyes were empty and lusterless. Because the mirror puppet didn't have a soul. Swish. The mirror puppet attacked once more, and a tempest sword light that was coiled with wind concept and lightning concept shot out from the tip of the spirit sword in its hand, and it flashed towards Duan Ling Tian like a sharp arrow that was shot out from a bow. It seemed as if it wanted to penetrate Duan Ling Tian's body. Umph. Duan Ling Tian grunted coldly and abruptly took a stride forward. Instantly, the spirit sword in his hand similarly pierced out in a perfectly straight manner, and a tempest sword light that was exactly the same whistled out to collide with the sword light shot out by the mirror puppet. Bang! The sword lights collided and then vanished, and a piercingly cold gale swept out, causing the violet clothes on Duan Ling Tian and the mirror puppet to flutter with the wind. The tempest sword light was a technique executed by Duan Ling Tian by utilizing the tempest point. It was executed casually and as if it was his own arm, and its might was extraordinary. But unfortunately, Duan Ling Tian was in a head-on collision with the mirror puppet now, and they were evenly matched. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. After a short moment, two extremely swift figures occasionally crisscrossed within the cavern, and they occasionally brought out a narrow and long sword light. It was Duan Ling Tian and the mirror puppet that were in a fierce battle with their full strength. Between the two of them, their origin, energy, concept, and combat experience were equal. Practically all their methods were exactly the same. Time silently flowed by. An hour had passed, yet Duan Ling Tian and the mirror puppet were still unable to determine a victor, and they were always in a state of being evenly matched. Gradually, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but become slightly impatient. If this continues, when will it end? Duan Ling Tian was agitated in his heart. This also caused his attacks to be affected by his mood, and he was slightly in a disadvantageous position in the following confrontation. Damn it. After he fell into a disadvantageous position, Duan Ling Tian suffered the attacks of the mirror puppet that were like a storm, and the mirror puppet obviously wanted to defeat him in one go or even kill him. This fellow doesn't have a soul, so he utterly doesn't have an impatient mood like me. Most terrifying of all is that he has battle instincts that are almost similar to mine, and once he finds the slightest flaw of mine, he won't let it go. When faced with the attacks of the mirror puppet that were like a storm, Duan Ling Tian retreated step by step in defeat, and he was in an extremely sorry state. The mirror puppet was like an emotionless and cold-blooded machine, and for the sake of attaining its goal, it exerted all its strength and was fearless. Could it be that my main body is going to lose to a mirror puppet? Duan Ling Tian's expression was unsightly to the extreme. Only someone that was in the same situation as Duan Ling Tian would be able to understand Duan Ling Tian's current feelings. Just like the person that was in a fierce battle with his mirror puppet in the third level of the Sword Monarch's treasure. The spacious cavern was covered in a layer of thick and solid ice. On this solid ice, two identical beautiful figures were ceaselessly crisscrossing each other. Suddenly, the two of them separated and stood in confrontation in midair. Ding, 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 ding. Clear and melodious sounds ceaselessly sounded out from the things in their hands. When one looked carefully, it was an exquisite bell. The sound of the bell seemed to possess the ability to attract the soul, causing one to be unable to guard against it. The two young women that were in confrontation had identical appearances, and they were around the age of 15 or 16 with beautiful appearances. One could imagine that when they grew up, the two of them would surely be drop-dead gorgeous beauties. But one of the young women was slightly strange. She didn't have lively eyes like the other young woman, and she only had a pair of empty and lusterless eyes that seemed as if she didn't have a soul. How infuriating! The young woman that blinked with lively eyes panted with rage. Not only does this fellow possess a similar strength as me, he even possesses a similar weapon as me. Not to mention this, his ice concept is actually exactly similar to mine. Chapter 621. Duan Lingtian naturally didn't know what happened in the third level of the Sword Monarch's treasure, nor did he have the interest to know. Presently he was being suppressed by the mirror puppet. Since the mirror puppet had targeted his flaws when he was in an irritable mood, it attacked like a storm, catching him off guard and impossible to guard against. Swish! A swift black-colored sword light flashed out from the mirror puppet's hand, and it seemed to have transformed into a bolt of lightning that descended onto the spirit sword that Duan Lingtian hastily raised up. Clang! Two grade 1 spirit swords that were exactly the same collided with each other and emitted an ear-piercing sound of metal colliding. At the same time, Duan Lingtian felt a violent energy come from the sword in the mirror puppet's hand, and it suppressed the strength that he hadn't completely mobilized in one go. Instantly, the violent energy on the mirror puppet's sword followed along the spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand and easily surged into Duan Lingtian's body. Even if Duan Lingtian executed the high-grade Earth-rank defensive martial skill, the Earth Dragon's Barrier, it was useless. The defensive Qi barrier formed by the Earth Dragon's Barrier couldn't withstand a single blow before the violent energy of the mirror puppet, and it instantly shattered into pieces. The violent energy surged into Duan Lingtian's body and blasted Duan Lingtian flying. Duan Lingtian was like an arrow that left the bow, and he heavily collided with the distant cavern wall. Pooh! Duan Lingtian, who felt a sweetness rising from his throat, couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and his countenance was ghastly pale and in an extremely sorry state. The mirror puppet is like my shadow. Now I've lost at the hands of my own shadow. If news of this were to spread, I wonder how many people would laugh at me. Duan Lingtian shook his head and laughed bitterly. I'll search through the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu and see if there's any way to break this mirror puppet. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and hurriedly fled when facing the mirror puppet that chased after him. At the same time, the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu flashed through his mind. There was no doubt that Samsara Emperor Wu was a powerful inscription master. In the memories of Reincarnation Emperor Wu, there was a method to set up the inscription formation to form the mirror puppet. There was also a lot of information about the mirror puppet. However, when Duan Lingtian carefully sorted out the information, he was shocked to find that this information was of no use to him at the moment. It was nothing more than bragging about how powerful the mirror puppet was. Once the mirror inscription formation was set up, no one would be able to escape the slaughter of the mirror puppets. If I was the person that set up the inscription formation, then I would naturally be happy to see someone being killed by his own mirror puppet. But the problem is that I'm the one being bullied by my own mirror puppet now. As Duan Lingtian fled, his mood became more and more irritable. Could it be that there's really no way? Duan Lingtian continued to search through the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu that were related to the mirror puppet. Unfortunately, after half a day, Duan Lingtian still didn't have any clues. Time quietly passed. As for Duan Lingtian, he was still being chased by the mirror puppet and was in a more and more sorry state. At the moment, Duan Lingtian was still constantly searching through the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu. As the saying goes, the heavens reward those who persevere. These words were not wrong at all. After a day and a night, Duan Lingtian finally saw a blurry memory in Samsara Emperor Wu's lifetime memories. This blurry memory was precisely the flaw of the mirror puppet. The most terrifying thing about the mirror puppet is that it has no soul, no feelings, and doesn't know exhaustion. There's another terrifying thing. That is, no matter what the original body comprehends, no matter what new changes there are, it will follow and learn. The blurry memory gradually became clear. And this characteristic is not only its strength but also its greatest weakness. If the original body deliberately self-mutilates by going berserk, the mirror puppet will generally self-mutilate as well. The original body can stop in time, but the mirror puppet won't think so much. It's one-track minded and will only continue to charge headlong, not giving up until it reaches the Yellow River. This memory caused Duan Lingtian's eyes to brighten. So it's that simple, to think that I was played by this guy for half a day. In my opinion, this test is not only a test of strength, but also a test of wisdom. Accurately speaking, it's a test of the combination of strength and wisdom. Duan Lingtian dodged the mirror puppet sword once again, and his heart moved. In an instant, the origin energy in his body started to surge. When Duan Lingtian's sharp spiritual force extended to the mirror puppet's body, he discovered that the origin energy in its body was also surging, and the situation was almost identical to the situation in his body. Then let's play a big one. Duan Lingtian's heart shook, and his eyes revealed a trace of madness. Subsequently, the origin energy in his body instantly flowed in reverse, and charged towards the path it came from. Along the way, it destroyed many meridians. At this moment, Duan Lingtian only felt unbearable pain. Fortunately, these injuries were all within the scope of his control. As long as he returned and swallowed the Great Recovery Pill, he would be completely healed. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's spiritual force could discover that the mirror puppet's origin energy was similarly destroying its own body. Bang! The origin energy in Duan Lingtian's body rushed out, destroying all the meridians along the way. The mirror image puppet followed suit. It's about time. Duan Lingtian's heart moved, and he stopped the rhythm of his origin energy. But the mirror puppet didn't know how to stop, and it still continued to destroy its own body there. Taking out a Great Recovery Pill and consuming it, Duan Lingtian's gaze was slightly cold as he faced the mirror puppet that was swaying. Sword drawing arts. An incomparably swift sword strike whistled out. Facing the mirror puppet that raised its hand slowly and suffered from internal injuries, Duan Lingtian seemed to have transformed into a fierce tiger, and he instantly bit off the mirror puppet's neck. A deep sword mark was left on the mirror puppet's throat, but it didn't bleed. Bang! Right at this moment, the mirror puppet stopped moving, its body trembled, and it instantly exploded into nothingness. The inscription formation had been broken. Congratulations, you've passed the 6th test. As the first person to pass all the tests, you'll obtain my lifetime inheritance. Walk through the open stone door in front, and you'll be able to arrive at the place where I struggled at death's door. The martial monarch's voice sounded out once more, and it was extremely clear when it entered Duan Lingtian's ears. I passed. Duan Lingtian smiled, and he felt indescribably excited in his heart. Right at this moment. Rumble. Rumble. Duan Lingtian saw the cave wall in front of him suddenly tremble. Ferocious cracks appeared on it, and they combined together to form a spider web. Soon after, the cave wall collapsed, and a huge stone door appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Currently the stone door was rising up. Bang! A loud sound reverberated in the air, and the stone door completely rose up. A passageway was revealed behind the stone door. The passageway could not be considered long, and Duan Lingtian could see the light on the other side as he stood on the spot. The martial monarch's inheritance. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath. At this moment he could almost hear the sound of his own heartbeat. Without any hesitation, Duan Lingtian directly rushed toward the passageway in front of him. Although he possessed the lifetime memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, he was not the reincarnation Emperor Wu after all. To the current him, the martial monarch's inheritance was an unreachable existence. Now this unreachable existence was easily within his reach. Naturally he was excited. After passing through the passageway, another extremely spacious cave appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. The cave was very big, but it was empty. In the distance there was a stone platform and a person was sitting cross-legged on it. To be more precise, it was a complete skeleton. The skeleton was wearing white clothes, and the white clothes were made of an unknown material. After a long time it was still intact, which was shocking. Duan Lingtian stepped forward and slowly walked to the front of the skeleton, sizing it up. The skeleton was extremely sturdy, and it seemed to be a strong man in the past. At this moment, the skeleton's right hand was stretched out, and it was tightly holding a sword that stood upright on the ground. It was a simple and unadorned sword. This sword, Duan Lingtian's eyes could not help but light up. He could see that this sword was much more powerful than the sword embryo in his hand. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian saw a word engraved on the sword hilt, and he was completely stunned. Wave. That was clearly the word, wave. It can't be so coincidental, right? Duan Lingtian took a deep breath, took a step forward, and raised his hand to touch the sword in the skeleton's hand. For a moment, Duan Lingtian only felt that the sword was cold to the touch. As his spiritual energy extended and merged into it, he confirmed something. This is a quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Duan Lingtian confirmed it completely. Not only that, this spirit sword should have been personally refined by the reincarnation Emperor Wu in the past. Duan Lingtian, who had merged with the reincarnation Emperor Wu's memories, knew some of the reincarnation Emperor Wu's habits in the past in detail. In the second lifetime of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, he studied the Tao of weapon refinement to the extreme. Later on, as long as he refined quasi-royal grade spirit weapons and royal grade spirit weapons, he would engrave the word wave on them. The reason this word was engraved was because in the second lifetime of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, his name was Gu Lang. Gu Lang was the name of the reincarnation Emperor Wu in his second lifetime, and it accompanied him throughout his life. Of course, when the reincarnation Emperor Wu once again stood at the peak of Cloud Continent in his second lifetime, besides a few friends by his side, very few people knew his true name. Everyone uniformly addressed him as the reincarnation Emperor Wu. The reincarnation Emperor Wu was a legend on Cloud Continent at that time, an undefeated legend. According to the reincarnation Emperor Wu's memories, he didn't refine many quasi-royal grade spirit weapons and royal grade spirit weapons in his lifetime, and he gave them all to his good friends or loved ones by his side. Duan Lingtian's gaze descended onto the skeleton before him. Could it be that this person has some sort of relationship with the reincarnation Emperor Wu? When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but shake his head and laugh in self-ridicule. What am I thinking? When the reincarnation Emperor Wu reincarnated in his second lifetime, it was an entire 10,000 years from now. No matter how strong the Emperor Wu was, I'm afraid he would have already transformed into a pile of dirt. Chapter 622. Shaking his head, Duan Lingtian withdrew his thoughts that had drifted to God knows where and returned to his senses. Looks like this skeleton is that sword cultivator martial monarch that left behind the sword monarch's treasure. I wonder what the inheritance he spoke of is. Duan Lingtian sized up the white-clothed skeleton before him, and then he looked around, yet he didn't notice anything. There was no spatial ring on the fingers of the white-clothed skeleton as well. Where's his spatial ring? Duan Lingtian's brows raised, and he was filled with interest towards the spatial ring of the martial monarch before him. There were surely many good things within the spatial ring of the martial monarch. But along with Duan Lingtian searching around the spacious cavern, he didn't notice the spatial ring left behind by the martial monarch. Instantly, Duan Lingtian was slightly discouraged. This fellow wouldn't be making fun of me, right? Duan Lingtian shook his head and returned to the side of the martial monarch's skeleton. Perhaps it's on him. Duan Lingtian stretched out his hand without the slightest restraint and pulled open the white clothes on the martial monarch's skeleton. Even though he didn't find a spatial ring within, he found a jade slip. This jade slip flickered with a faint jade green sheen, and it looked to be of much higher quality than the voice transmission jade slip. After searching through the memories of Emperor Wu for a while, Duan Lingtian recognized what it was. Memory jade slip. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath. A memory jade slip was a jade slip that could record the specific information of inscription formations, cultivation methods, martial skills, and so on and so forth. Ordinary cultivation methods and martial skills were all recorded in a small booklet. But many high-grade cultivation methods and martial skills were directly recorded in memory jade slips. There were even many inscription masters that left behind their comprehensions towards the art of inscription on the memory jade slip before they passed away for their descendants. Of course, not every inscription master was able to do this. The preciousness of a memory jade slip was utterly not something a voice transmission jade slip could compare to. Just as he held the memory jade slip in his hand, Duan Lingtian heard the martial emperor's voice again. No matter who you are, since you're able to come here and obtain this memory jade slip, then you can be considered to have obtained my inheritance. I don't need you to acknowledge me as your master. As long as you don't let down what I've learned, that's enough. After all this nonsense, I still haven't formally introduced myself. I've been an orphan since I was young. I have no parents and I've spent half my life in poverty. I've only been able to become a martial monarch because of repeated fortuitous encounters. My acquaintances all call me White Cloth. Most people call me Tempest Sword Monarch or White Clothed Sword Monarch. In this life of mine, due to my worship of that reincarnation Emperor Wu, who suddenly disappeared a few thousand years ago, I have touched upon the Tao of weapon refinement and the Tao of inscriptions. Of course, I am far inferior to senior reincarnation Emperor Wu. Within this memory jade slip are the methods to set up and utilize inscription formations that I'm most skilled in. Besides that, there's also the sword skill I cultivate, the 9 Tribulation Sword Control Technique. After you obtain this jade slip, you can take the 3 profundity fragments within my skull. I hope they'll be able to assist you to become a martial monarch in the future. Besides that, you can take the spirit sword in my hand as well. This spirit sword is a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon that's almost extinct in Cloud Continent, and it's rare in the world. Before you possess the strength to protect it, try not to reveal it before others. An ordinary man is innocent, but a treasure is a crime. Now that I speak of it, the thing I love the most in my entire life is this Royal Great Spirit Sword. Because it's the work of Senior Reincarnation Emperor Wu that I worship the most. Before Senior Reincarnation Emperor Wu, there were no spirit weapons above the quasi-royal grade in Cloud Continent. After Senior Reincarnation Emperor Wu, I'm afraid it's difficult for another spirit weapon above the quasi-royal grade to appear. So, you have to take good care of this sword. The message recorded by the voice transmission inscription on the memory jade slip stopped abruptly. I never imagined that this white-clothed sword monarch is an admirer of Reincarnation Emperor Wu. But I believe him when he says there were no spirit weapons above the quasi-royal grade before Reincarnation Emperor Wu. But after Reincarnation Emperor Wu, it might not be difficult for a spirit weapon above the quasi-royal grade to appear. As he finished muttering to himself, the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled into a wisp of a smile. So long as his cultivation stepped into the martial monarch stage, he would be able to condense a quasi-royal grade weapon flame and refine a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon from there. Not to mention a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon. If I'm able to become Emperor Wu, then even a royal grade spirit weapon would be at my fingertips. Duan Lingtian had a confident expression. He'd completely inherited the lifetime worth of memories of Reincarnation Emperor Wu, and it included Reincarnation Emperor Wu's weapon refinement experience and weapon refinement methods. So long as one's cultivation was sufficient, so long as one possessed sufficient materials, refining a high-grade spirit weapon wasn't a problem at all. According to what this white-clothed sword monarch said, he's actually a figure from a few thousand years ago. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed as he thought in his heart. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian's attention returned to the memory jade slip in his hand. Along with Duan Lingtian's spiritual force coming into contact with the memory jade slip, vast amounts of information directly gushed into Duan Lingtian's mind. Fortunately, Duan Lingtian was prepared, otherwise Duan Lingtian would have probably been shaken to the point of fainting. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian had sorted out all this information. Inscription formation. Isn't this the inscription formation that can cause the 9 swords to combine into one? Even Reincarnation Emperor Wu didn't have the fortune to touch upon this inscription formation all those years ago. I never imagined that the white-clothed sword monarch would actually know how to set it up. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be surprised as he sorted out this memory. Besides this inscription formation, Duan Lingtian didn't care about the other inscription formations. Those inscription formations were all within the memories of Reincarnation Emperor Wu. The only exception was the Split Unite inscription pattern formation. The Split Unite inscription formation was the key to the Sword Monarch's treasure, and the inscription formation contained within the Jade Sword. It was precisely because of the existence of this inscription formation that the Jade Sword was able to be divided into 9 swords, and the 9 swords could combine into one. There's also this sword skill. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian moved his attention to the sword skill left behind by the white-clothed sword monarch. This sword skill was actually a heaven-rank sword skill. It stressed upon dividing a spirit sword into 9 and controlling the 9 spirit swords to fight the enemy. This sword skill needs to be combined with the Split Unite inscription formation. But the white-clothed sword monarch inscribed the Split Unite inscription formation on his weapon, the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Duan Lingtian returned to his senses, and his gaze descended onto the spirit sword in the hand of the white-clothed sword monarch. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian lightly took the spirit sword in his hand. Relying on the delight left behind by the white-clothed sword monarch, Duan Lingtian was extremely casual and easy in controlling the Split Unite inscription formation. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian's hand shook as his origin energy fused into the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. In the next moment, the quasi-royal grade spirit sword flashed with a strong light and transformed into 9 swords. This 9 tribulation sword control technique is interesting. It actually needs to be combined with the sword control technique. But this sword control technique requires the combination of spiritual force to execute. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart as he copied the sword control technique, and with a raise of his hand, he tossed the 9 quasi-royal grade spirit swords into the air. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's spiritual force swept out to envelop the 9 quasi-royal grade spirit swords, and he intended to control these spirit swords to float in the air. But unfortunately, with Duan Lingtian's current spiritual force, he was only barely able to make one spirit sword float in the air. Moreover, it was even swaying and might fall at any moment. As for the other spirit swords, they directly fell to the ground and emitted a wave of clamorous sounds. This 9 tribulation sword control technique is slightly interesting. When 9 swords are executed in unison, even though it's unable to overlap their strength, the 9 swords attack from all directions, and it's impossible to guard against. Duanling Tian had fused with the lifetime worth of memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, so his discerning gaze was unique and realized that the 9 tribulation sword control technique wasn't simple. To a certain extent, this 9 tribulation sword control technique was not inferior to the best heaven-rank high-grade martial skill in Samsara Emperor Wu's memory, the 9 Dragons Radiant Flash. The 9 Dragons Radiant Flash was a heaven-rank high-grade martial skill that came with the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique that Duanling Tian cultivated. After cultivating this cultivation technique to the 7th form of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, one could begin to cultivate it, and its might was extremely terrifying. With my current strength, no matter if it's the 9 Tribulation Sword Control Technique or the 9 Dragons Radiant Flash, it's difficult for me to cultivate them. I'll think about this in the future. Soon after, Duanling Tian returned to his senses, and his gaze once again descended onto the 9 quasi-royal grade spirit swords. His spiritual force extended out and touched the inscription formation in one of the quasi-royal grade spirit swords. Instantly, the 9 quasi-royal grade spirit swords merged into one again. Unfortunately, after this quasi-royal grade spirit sword is divided into 9, it can't attack by itself. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to having 9 quasi-royal grade spirit swords in my hands. Duanling Tian was slightly disappointed about this. But he knew as well that it was impossible for such an abnormal thing to appear in this world. An inscription formation was able to allow a quasi-royal grade spirit sword to be divided into 9, and it could even be used by itself. Then wouldn't this inscription formation be heaven-defying? If such an inscription formation really existed, then even the heavens wouldn't tolerate it. After the spirit sword is divided into 9, it can only be jointly used by a single person. Coupled with the 9 tribulation sword control technique, the 9 swords would sweep out from all directions, and any one of the swords would possess the amplification strength of a quasi-royal grade spirit sword. When he thought about how he would have the opportunity to utilize the 9 tribulation sword control technique in the future by relying on the quasi-royal grade spirit sword that was divided into 9, Duanling Tian was slightly excited in his heart. Gradually, Duanling Tian's mood calmed down. His gaze descended onto the white-clothed skeleton before him. He still remembered the white-clothed sword monarch's message. In the message he asked him to take out 3 profundity fragments from the skeleton. 3 profundity fragments. Earlier, the white-clothed sword monarch's message seemed to have mentioned that someone called him the Tempest Sword Monarch. Wind Lightning Sword? Could it be that the 3 types of profundity fragments within his skull are the Wind Profundity Fragment, Lightning Profundity Fragment, and Sword Profundity Fragment? When he thought up to here, Duanling Tian's mood that had just calmed down surged once again. In the next moment, Duanling Tian stretched out his hand while practically trembling, and he stretched it into the white-clothed sword monarch's skull to touch the 3 profundity fragments. Suddenly, Duanling Tian felt a fierce aura sweep towards his hand, and it cut open his hand. Chapter 623. After using his origin energy to stop the wound, Duanling Tian, who'd learned his lesson, hurriedly coiled his origin energy around his hand and once again felt his way in. This time he withdrew 3 fragments at once. These 3 fragments were slightly similar to concept fragments in appearance, but the surface of their bodies had strands of material aura that was like flames. One of the fragments was completely jade green in color, and its surroundings seemed to flicker with jade green flames. Wind Profundity Fragment. With just a glance, Duanling Tian, who'd merged with the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, recognized this profundity fragment. The other fragment was completely dark violet in color, and its surroundings flickered with violet flames. Lightning could be faintly seen within the flames. Lightning Profundity Fragment. Duanling Tian thought in his heart as he realized his guess from before was correct. The last fragment was completely translucent and emitted a fierce sword chi. It was precisely the Sword Profundity Fragment. These 3 profundity fragments are actually all 3rd-level profundity fragments. Looks like the white-clothed sword monarch was an extraordinary figure when he was alive. Duanling Tian guessed in his heart. 3 types of profundities had all been comprehended to the 3rd level. Such comprehension ability could be considered to be outstanding even amongst the numerous martial monarchs. My gains aren't bad. Duanling Tian put away the 3 profundity fragments into his spatial ring, and a brilliant smile appeared on his face. but in next to no time he restrained his expression. I wonder how Xuanai, little black, little white and little gold are now. Didn't the white-clothed sword monarch say that I can leave after obtaining the inheritance? Where do I leave from? Duan Lingtian looked around. In the end he noticed a secret on the cavern wall at the side. On the right cavern wall, a protruding small rock had suddenly appeared since an unknown time. Duan Lingtian didn't notice it earlier. Duan Lingtian walked over and patted the small rock and he noticed it could move. Instantly Duan Lingtian pressed the small rock down. In the next moment, rumble, rumble. The cavern wall beside the small rock suddenly trembled, and in the next moment, it directly split open and collapsed. Then a stone door appeared and slowly rose. A moment later, another pitch-black tunnel appeared in front of Duan Lingtian. This should be the exit. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up and he walked straight in. In his hand, a purple flame with copper edges appeared out of thin air. It was the artifact flame that he used for illumination. If there was anyone who recognized this weapon flame, they would definitely be so angry that they would vomit blood. Using a purplish copper-edged third-grade artifact fire to light up the room was simply a waste of natural resources. However, Duan Lingtian did not care about this. Not long after, Duan Lingtian reached the end of the tunnel. At the end of the passageway was a closed stone door. Dong, dong. Duan Lingtian knocked on the stone door. He found that the stone door was made of a special material. Even if a martial artist at the Profound Void martial stage or the Void Transformation martial stage wanted to break it with brute force, it would be impossible. There should be a mechanism here. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian began to look around. In the end, Duan Lingtian found a small protruding stone on the wall beside the stone door. I wonder where the stone door leads to. Duan Lingtian thought as he pressed his hand on the small stone. In an instant, rumble, rumble. At this moment, Duan Lingtian found that not only was the stone door in front of him rising, but there was also a loud noise coming from the end of the tunnel behind him. This mechanism not only opened this stone door, but also closed the stone door at the other end? Duan Lingtian was stunned. At this moment, Duan Lingtian found that the stone door in front of him had been opened. The ground outside the stone door was also covered with a layer of gravel. Duan Lingtian stepped out. He found that the stone door he walked out of was also covered by a thick layer of cave wall. When the stone door opened, the cave wall outside was shattered. Brother Lingtian. Right at this moment, a familiar voice sounded out by Duan Lingtian's ears. Duan Lingtian looked over when he heard this voice, and only now did he notice a robust middle-aged man walking over from afar, and the middle-aged man arrived before him in a short moment. Dong Ming. Duan Lingtian recognized this person, and it was precisely the possessor of the first jade sword that he'd contacted with the jade sword that day, Dong Ming. Bang. Right at this moment, another loud bang sounded out. Only now did Duan Lingtian notice that the stone door at the entrance of the tunnel he just walked out of had actually closed once more. Dong Ming was shocked, and then he looked at Duan Lingtian and said with an envious expression, "Brother Lingtian, I really envy you, you were actually able to enter the third level of the Sword Monarch's treasure." "You didn't enter?" Duan Lingtian was stunned and couldn't help but ask. Dong Ming laughed bitterly. "When I arrived at the end of the second level, there were people that had entered all 10 stairs. Only 10 people were able to enter the third level, and because I was already too late when I arrived, I missed it." Duan Lingtian came to a sudden understanding, and only now did he recall that there seemed to be such a thing. Duan Lingtian sized up the surroundings, and only now did he notice that this was the first level of the Sword Monarch's treasure. Not far ahead of him, balls of gray and hazy mist were condensed high up in the sky. That place was the entrance to the Sword Monarch's treasure that was located at the depths of the sea. The entrance to the Sword Monarch's treasure was there. Where are the others? Duan Lingtian looked around the surroundings and only noticed Dong Ming, and he couldn't help but ask curiously. "There are another 6 people like me that were unable to enter the third level of the Sword Monarch's treasure. At this moment they're probably still at the second level." Dong Ming said. This time, there were 7 people that weren't fated to enter the third level of the Sword Monarch's treasure. Duan Lingtian, Han Xuanai, the little gold mouse, and the 2 little pythons occupied a total of 5 spots in the third level of the Sword Monarch's treasure. Besides that, only 5 spots remained, and when divided amongst 12 people, there were naturally 7 people that didn't obtain anything. "Why didn't you stay at the second level?" Duan Lingtian asked curiously. "In any case, I've already missed the third level, so there's no use in staying at the second level. So I returned to the first level." But since Elder Hu has entered the third level, I didn't come here in vain this time. As he finished speaking, Dong Ming was slightly excited. He entered the third level. What are you so excited about? Duan Lingtian's face froze. Dong Ming said with a smile, Brother Lingtian, there's something you don't know. Before I came here, I discussed it with Elder Hu, and no matter what we obtained, we'll split it equally between the two of us. What you mean is, we have to split half of the treasures he obtained with you? Duan Lingtian asked. Yes. Dong Ming nodded. Duan Lingtian frowned. Asked that Elder Hu to split half of the treasures with Dong Ming? Would he be so kind? He didn't hold any hope. Why haven't Xuanai and the others come out yet? Duan Lingtian chatted idly with Dong Ming for a while when he noticed Xuanai, the little gold mouse, and the two little pythons hadn't appeared, and he couldn't help but frown as a wisp of worry appeared on his face. Brother Lingtian, is the third level very dangerous? Dong Ming's heart jerked when he saw the worry on Duan Lingtian's face. It's not just dangerous, it's simply life-threatening. When he heard Dong Ming, Duan Lingtian recalled the scenes he'd encountered on the third level, and for a time he couldn't help but feel a lingering fear in his heart. Dong Ming's expression went slightly grim when he heard this, and he said with slight worry, I wonder how Elder Hu is now. If Elder Hu died on the third level, then he would have really come here in vain this time. A Brother Lingtian has returned. Suddenly, a surprised voice sounded out from afar. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian saw 6 people heading straight towards him. Amongst these 6 people, 3 of them had once received kindness from him. On the way here, because the cultivations of these 3 people were comparatively low, it was difficult for the origin energy barriers they held up on the surface of their bodies to resist the pressure of the seawater at the bottom of the sea, and it was he who asked these people to take refuge on the back of the 3-eyed flame tiger. The cultivations of these 3 people were all 4th level void initiation stage martial artists. Presently, the 3 of them looked at Duan Lingtian with slight warmth. On the other hand, when the other 3 people looked at Duan Lingtian, traces of a greedy sheen was mixed within the depths of their eyes. Although it was concealed very deeply, Duan Lingtian still noticed it clearly. The cultivations of these 3 people were all 5th level void initiation stage martial artists. Presumably, it was precisely because their cultivations were limited that they weren't able to arrive at the end of the 2nd level in time and missed the quota to enter the 3rd level. Brother Lingtian, did you gain anything on the 3rd level? One of the 3 people that were warm asked curiously. Not bad. Duan Lingtian nodded with a light smile. Congratulations, Brother Lingtian. The other 2 people congratulated Duan Lingtian repeatedly. But in next to no time, Duan Lingtian noticed that the expressions of these 3 people froze, as if they'd suddenly thought of something. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian noticed that a sheen of conflict flickered in the depths of their eyes. In the end, the sheen of conflict vanished and was replaced by greed. The smile on Duan Lingtian's face didn't change, yet there was slight coldness in the depths of his gaze. According to his guess, these 3 people that were originally very warm to him ought to have received the voice transmissions of the other 3 people now, and they'd come to some sort of agreement. The facts proved that Duan Lingtian had completely guessed the intentions of the other 3 people. In the blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian was surrounded by 6 people. What are all of you doing? The scene before him caused Dong Ming's face to go grim as he asked with a shout. Dong Ming, this matter isn't related to you. You better stay at the side. Otherwise we'll kill you as well. One of the 5th level void initiation stage martial artists glanced coldly and indifferently at Dong Ming as he threatened. This person was precisely one of the 3 5th level void initiation stage martial artists that first aroused greed towards Duan Lingtian. Dong Ming, I advise you to mind your own business. You're only at the 5th level of the void initiation stage. We have 3 5th level void initiation stage martial artists here, and any 2 of them would be sufficient to annihilate you. Another person spoke out as well. Dong Ming's face sank as he naturally knew that what these 2 people said was true. If he helped Duan Lingtian, then he would probably be unable to escape death. Don't forget young Miss Xuanai by Brother Lingtian's side. If you dare touch him, then young Miss Xuanai will absolutely not let you off. Dong Ming took a deep breath and carried out Han Xuanai. As soon as Dong Ming finished speaking, the expressions of the 3 people that were instigated to go against Duan Lingtian went grim. But in next to no time, they gritted their teeth and became firm. Riches and honor were sought amidst danger. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Chapter 624. Young Miss Xuanai? So long as we kill him and destroy the evidence. How would young Miss Xuanai know that he was killed by us? Destroy the evidence? Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged, yet the cold lights in the depths of his gaze grew deeper. If it wasn't for Brother Ling Tian asking all of you to take refuge on the back of the three-eyed flame tiger earlier, all of you would utterly be unable to arrive at the Sword Monarch's treasure. Now all of you have turned hostile and become ingrates? Dong Ming stood by Duan Lingtian's side as he spoke with an enraged expression. The expressions of the 3/4 level Void Initiation Stage martial artists went slightly grim when they heard this, and they glared fiercely at Dong Ming. It was as if they were blaming Dong Ming for being talkative. Dong Ming, I'll give you 5 breaths of time to leave this Duan Lingtian. Otherwise you'll be buried with him. A 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artist looked at Dong Ming as he threatened. Dong Ming, fuck off. The other 2 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artists shouted out in a grim voice. Dong Ming's expression was unsightly, yet he didn't have the intention of leaving. Dong Ming, leave. This matter isn't related to you. Duan Lingtian looked at Dong Ming as he shook his head and smiled. Brother Lingtian, I don't care if you've taken me to be a friend, but I've taken you to be a friend. Since you're my friend, it's naturally impossible for me to stand idly by when you've encountered danger. Otherwise I, Dong Ming, would be a man in vain. Dong Ming became more and more agitated as he spoke. Duan Lingtian was slightly moved, as he never imagined that Dong Ming's temper would be so stubborn. But Dong Ming's temper was very compatible with Dong Ming. Looks like you really want to be buried with him, Dong Ming. This is good as well, we don't have to worry that someone would expose us to that little girl after you die. One of the 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artists that surrounded Duan Lingtian and Dong Ming sneered. Die. The other 2 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artists revealed cold lights in their eyes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Origin energy raged on the other 3/4 level Void Initiation Stage martial artists, and their gazes stared fixedly at Duan Lingtian. Only greed remained in the depths of their gazes. Do you really want to kill me that much? Duan Lingtian looked at the 3/4 level Void Initiation Stage martial artists and couldn't help but laugh, and he laughed extremely naturally. From the beginning until the end, he had a calm expression when facing the 3/4 level Void Initiation Stage martial artists and 3/5 level Void Initiation Stage martial artists that came with ill intent, and he wasn't shocked or afraid. Duan Lingtian, you've helped us and we owe you a favor. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for taking something you shouldn't have. One of the 4th level Void Initiation Stage martial artists braced himself as he spoke. Not bad. The other 2 4th level Void Initiation Stage martial artists hurriedly followed suit. Something that shouldn't be taken? What are you referring to? Duan Lingtian was stunned. I'm naturally referring to the treasures you obtained in the 3rd level of the Sword Monarch's treasure. A 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artist looked at Duan Lingtian with a greedy expression, and he stuck out his tongue to lick his dry lips. This caused Duan Lingtian to be unable to help but frown, and he felt slightly disgusted. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian started laughing. All the treasures I obtained in the 3rd level seem to have been obtained by me relying on my own ability, right? On what basis did the 6 of you take them away? On the basis that we're stronger than you. The origin energy on the body of the other 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artist skyrocketed, and 7 ancient horned dragon silhouettes condensed into form in the sky above him, accumulating force while waiting to attack. Even if we don't utilize concept, we're still capable of easily annihilating a 3rd level Void Initiation Stage kid like you by merely relying on our origin energy and spirit weapons. The origin energy on the body of the last 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artist raged as well, and 7 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared above him as he sneered at Duan Lingtian. When he saw the situation was about to erupt, Dong Ming's face went grim, and he took a stride forward to protect before Duan Lingtian. On his body, origin energy was raging. 7 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared in the sky above him as well. But as a 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artist facing 3 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artists at the same time, he felt slightly weak no matter how he looked at it. Dong Ming, since you want to stand out forcefully, then we'll kill you first and then we'll kill Duan Lingtian. A 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artist shouted out with a grim voice as he took a stride forward to charge towards Dong Ming. The other 2 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artists were enveloped by origin energy that was like flames, and they followed behind like shadows as they targeted straight at Dong Ming. When faced with 3 5th level Void Initiation Stage martial artists attacking at the same time, Dong Ming's face went grim. Kill Duan Lingtian. The other 3 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists attacked at practically the exact same time. But their target wasn't Dong Ming but Duanling Tian. The origin energy on the Grade 6 spirit weapons in the hands of the 3 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists skyrocketed, and their concept suffused out to sweep towards Duanling Tian. 10 ancient horned dragon silhouettes and over 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared in the sky above 2 of them. 11 ancient horned dragon silhouettes and over 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared in the sky above the other person. It was in this hurry that Lin Fan's expression changed. Whoosh! Duanling Tian abruptly turned around to look at the 3 5th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists that charged towards Dong Ming, and a dim light flashed in the depths of his eyes. 1,000 illusions. In the next moment he directly utilized his soul skill to construct an illusory space that enveloped the 3 5th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists. At the same time, a simple and ordinary sword appeared out of thin air in his hand. This sword was precisely the sword he'd obtained from the white-clothed sword monarch skeleton earlier, and it was a quasi-royal grade spirit weapon. Along with the pulsation of the origin energy on Duanling Tian's body, 4 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared in the sky above him. Whereas when his hand that held the sword tightened, and his origin energy fused into the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Whoosh! Another 4 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared in the sky. An entire doubled amplification. How could this be possible? When this scene entered into the eyes of the 3 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists, it caused them to be dumbstruck. Even their attacks that blasted towards Duanling Tian slowed down slightly. The sword in Duanling Tian's hand amplified strength by 100%? Even if it was a Grade 1 spirit weapon, it seemed to only amplify strength by almost 90%, right? A Grade 1 spirit weapon that was capable of amplifying strength by 89% could already be considered to be a top-grade spirit weapon amongst Grade 1 spirit weapons. They'd never heard of a spirit weapon that amplified strength by 100%. Sword drawing arts. Right at the instant the 3 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists were dazed, a cold light flashed within Duanling Tian's eyes, and it was precisely this moment that he'd been waiting for. If he were to go head-on with them, it would be extremely difficult for him to kill the 3 of them at the same time. If the 3 of them were careless, then it would be a different story. Swish! A sword howl swept out, and it was accompanied by a wave of the sound of wind and thunder. Besides the 8 ancient horned dragon silhouettes above Duanling Tian, another 3 ancient horned dragon silhouettes had appeared. Second-level wind concept was comparable to 2 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. First-level lightning concept was comparable to 1 ancient horned dragon silhouette. The strength of a total of 11 ancient horned dragons. It suppressed 2 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists and was only inferior to the last 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artist. A sword light that was like a bolt of lightning flashed past, and 2 lines of blood shot out. Bang! Bang! The 2 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists crashed to the ground. Even though the last one had hastily blocked Duanling Tian's sword strike, he'd suffered a heavy injury as well. Originally, when this person exerted his full strength, his strength surpassed Duanling Tian by the strength of 2,000 ancient mammoths, but it was precisely because of his carelessness that he'd missed the best opportunity to kill Duanling Tian. The heavily injured 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artist struggled to stand still, and the Grade 6 spirit weapon in his hand pointed horizontally at Duanling Tian, and his expression was ghastly pale to the extreme. What spirit is that? But unfortunately he was bound to be unable to finish speaking. Swish! The quasi-royal grade spirit sword in Duanling Tian's hand transformed into a sword light that followed closely behind like a shadow, and it easily killed this heavily injured 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artist. Subsequently, Duanling Tian put the quasi-royal grade spirit sword back into his spatial ring. Brother Ling Tian. Meanwhile, Dong Ming recovered from his shock and he looked at Duanling Tian. What are the 3 of them doing? Dong Ming, who just asked this question, suddenly smelled a bloody smell, and when he turned around to look, he saw the 3 corpses that had fallen before Duanling Tian. The 3 corpses laid in a pool of blood, and it was so dazzling and resplendent when it entered Dong Ming's eyes. This? Dong Ming recovered from his shock after a short moment, and he stared blankly at Duanling Tian. Brother Ling Tian, you did this? What do you think? Duanling Tian shrugged, and a brilliant smile hung on his face from the beginning until the end. But when the smile that Duanling Tian revealed now entered into Dong Ming's eyes, it was no different than the smile of a devil. Duan Ling Tian turned around to look at the three people that were killing each other in the illusory space created by his soul skill, Thousand Soul, and he had a calm expression as if all of this wasn't related to him. The three fifth-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists had equal strengths, and they were in a chaotic battle. The spirit weapons in their hands even flashed out fiercely to smash towards their companions that were standing on the same side a moment ago. The situation of the battle was extremely horrifying. When Dong Ming turned around as well, he looked at the three fifth-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists that were in a chaotic battle and had suffered heavy injuries. Brother Ling Tian, what are the three of them doing? I don't know. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and said indifferently, perhaps they're not splitting the spoils evenly, causing them to fight each other. Dong Ming naturally didn't believe Duan Ling Tian. Not splitting the spoils evenly? What a joke. Earlier, these three people came over menacingly and utilized all their ability to kill him. He originally thought that he would die at the hands of these three people. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, the three of them actually stopped attacking at the same time and started fighting each other. This caused the origin energy on his body that was originally accumulating strength to disperse completely, and he stared blankly at the three of them fighting each other. He who was originally the target of everyone had become a spectator. The three people that called each other brothers a moment ago and joined forces to kill him had instead started fighting each other, and it caused him to be speechless. But he just didn't know what had happened. Suddenly, Dong Ming inadvertently glanced at Duan Ling Tian, and when he saw the cold smile on the corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth, his heart jerked for no reason or rhyme. Could it be? Brother Ling Tian did it? After this thought arose in Dong Ming's mind, it was impossible for it to disappear, and it seemed as if it had taken root and sprouted in his mind. Even though he didn't know how Duan Ling Tian did it. But he had a strong premonition that all of this was done by Duan Ling Tian. For the first time, traces of terror arose in his heart for no reason or rhyme when he looked at the violet-clothed young man before him. He knew. This was an existence that couldn't be offended. He could only be a friend and not an enemy. If he were an enemy, then he would surely die a graveless death. Chapter 625. After a short moment, the three fifth-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists that were within the illusory space created by Duan Ling Tian's soul skill, Thousand Illusions, had all killed each other to the point of being heavily injured. The three of them were barely able to stand still and stood in a triangular confrontation, and they were out of breath. Bang! Right at this moment, an enormous bang sounded out, and it drew the attention of Duan Ling Tian and Dong Ming. As for the three fifth-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists, they seemed as if they didn't hear anything. Duan Ling Tian glanced over. The distant cavern wall suddenly collapsed, and a stone door appeared within it. Along with the stone door rising, a beautiful figure walked out with large strides to appear before his eyes. Xuan'ai. Duan Ling Tian's gaze lit up when he saw the yellow-clothed young woman that walked out slowly. The young woman was precisely Han Xuan'ai, Big Brother Ling Tian. The young woman originally had a worried expression, yet when she saw Duan Ling Tian, she squeezed out a trace of a smile. What's wrong? Duan Ling Tian asked with slight worry when he saw Xuan'ai was slightly off. Big Brother Ling Tian, I'm really useless. There are a total of 6 tests in the 3rd level of the Sword Monarch's treasure, yet I actually failed 2 of them. Xuan'ai had a long face as she spoke with a dejected expression. Which 2 tests did you fail? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. It was the first test of choosing a grade 1 spirit sword I failed. Then the last test was challenging the mirror puppet and I only fought it to a tie, and it ended in failure in the end. As Han Xuan'ai finished speaking, she had an unwilling expression. That fellow knew all my abilities, and I was utterly unable to do anything to it. Han Xuan'ai spoke casually here. But when it entered Dong Ming's ears, it instead caused him to feel as if he was struck by lightning, and he was completely stunned. Grade 1 spirit sword? To Dong Ming, there was a certain level of difficulty in obtaining a grade 5 spirit weapon. A grade 1 spirit sword almost caused his heart to jump out of his chest. Then did you choose a grade 2 spirit sword or a grade 3 spirit sword? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. A 2nd grade spirit sword. Han Xuan'ai was crestfallen. A 2nd grade spirit sword? Dong Ming was stunned again. Why was this young girl so unhappy after obtaining a 2nd grade spirit sword? As the saying goes, comparisons are odious. In his opinion, if it were him, not to mention obtaining a 2nd grade spirit sword, even if he obtained a 3rd grade spirit sword, he would be so happy that he would not be able to sleep for a few days. A 2nd grade spirit sword is not bad. Duan Ling Tian smiled. I'm not looking down on its grade. Han Xuanai shook her head. I only wanted to pass that test. No matter if I chose a second-grade spirit sword or a third-grade spirit sword, it would still be a failure. In my eyes there is no difference between the two. Hearing Xuanai's words, Duan Lingtian was shocked. Looks like Xuanai's background is really unfathomable, and she doesn't even take a grade 2 spirit sword seriously. Brother Lingtian, what are they doing? In next to no time, Han Xuanai recovered and became full of vitality. When she saw the three people that were in fierce battle nearby, she couldn't help but be stunned. They? Duan Lingtian smiled lightly. They wanted to kill me, so I slightly used some tricks on them. Brother Lingtian, you even know soul skills? Han Xuanai exclaimed in surprise as she glanced at the 3 5th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists that had empty gazes as they battled together. Duan Lingtian wasn't surprised that Han Xuanai was able to discern that he'd done something. What a joke. Xuanai was a member of a great power in the foreign lands after all, and it wasn't strange for her to recognize a soul skill. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. Han Xuanai instantly looked at Duan Lingtian with adoration when she heard this. Brother Lingtian, you're really formidable. I've never heard of a human martial artist being able to execute a soul skill before becoming an Emperor Wu. My luck is good and I obtained some fortuitous encounters. Duan Lingtian smiled. The nearby Dong Ming was instead unable to wrap his head around it. Soul skill? Emperor Wu? He'd never seen or heard of the former. He'd only heard of the latter, and he knew that it was an existence that stood at the peak of Cloud Continent. Brother Lingtian seems to know some sort of soul skill. And that soul skill is something that human martial artists can only execute after becoming an Emperor Wu? This was the logic that Dong Ming had summarized after sorting it out. This Brother Lingtian is really surprising. The corners of Dong Ming's mouth twitched as he looked at Duan Lingtian, who was chatting cheerfully with the young woman, and as he finished muttering, he didn't know how to describe the shock Duan Lingtian brought to him. Brother Lingtian, why did they want to kill you? Han Xuanai asked. They saw me come out from the 3rd level of the Sword Monarch's treasure, so they coveted the things I obtained there, and they wanted to kill me and seize my treasures. In the end it became like this. As Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he shrugged and had an expression of, it's none of my business. Brother Lingtian, you're too merciful. They wanted to kill you, yet you still let them live for so long. Han Xuanai lightly shook her head. Subsequently, under the astounded gazes of Duan Lingtian and Dong Ming, Han Xuanai suddenly raised her hand. Along with Han Xuanai slowly pushing out her hand. Whoosh. A wave of extremely icy cold wind swept out to envelop the 3 5th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists that were in a chaotic battle, and it froze them into ice sculptures. The 3 ice sculptures were of various shapes and were lifelike. They're an eyesore. Han Xuanai frowned as she looked at the 3 ice sculptures, and her hand lightly shook. Instantly, 3 fine needles condensed from ice condensed into form and whistled out. Swish, swish, swish. The ice needles respectively collided with the 3 ice sculptures, causing them to directly shatter and collapse. The 3 5th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artists within the ice sculptures were deader than dead. After doing all this, Han Xuanai instead seemed as if nothing had happened, and her gaze descended onto the 3 people that lay in pools of blood. Why have these 3 people died as well? I recognize them. Brother Lingtian, you'd once kindly helped them earlier and allowed them to take refuge on the big guy's back. They were killed by me. Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at the 3 corpses and said, the 3 of them and the other 3 people you killed earlier joined forces with the intention of killing me and seizing the treasures I obtained from the Sword Monarch's treasure. What? Han Xuanai's face went grim as she glared angrily at the 3 corpses. These 3 fellows actually repaid kindness with enmity? Damn it. Under her extreme rage, Han Xuanai attacked once more, and an extremely icy cold aura swept out to envelop the 3 corpses. Instantly, the 3 corpses transformed into 3 ice sculptures that lay on the ground. Bang! Han Xuanai raised her hand and slapped out, and 3 palm prints whistled out to blast the 3 ice sculptures into ice shards. This wasn't the end. Swoosh! Han Xuanai's sleeve swept out, and an extremely icy cold strong wind seemed to have condensed into numerous wind blades in the air, and it seemed to have formed a dense net that enveloped the ice shards. Instantly, the ice shards transformed into mist that covered the sky and dissipated in the air. Psst. A wave of gasping sounded out. It was Dong Ming who felt coldness arise in his heart when he saw the young woman's actions, and he couldn't help but gasp. This little girl. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled when he saw Xuanai's actions, and warmth arose in his heart. As the saying goes, one is infuriated for a beauty. This little girl Xuan'ai was instead infuriated for her older brother now. You aren't coveting the things in my big brother Ling Tian's possession, right? In next to no time Han Xuan'ai's gaze descended onto Dong Ming, and traces of an icy cold aura leaped about within it. It seemed as if so long as Dong Ming's answer caused her to be dissatisfied, then she would attack once more and freeze Dong Ming into an ice sculpture before destroying it. No. Dong Ming's body shuddered for no reason or rhyme. He'd completely experienced the temper of this young miss, and he felt fear from the bottom of his heart. Now, even if someone beat him to death, he wouldn't dare offend this young Mississippi. When others killed, they would at least leave behind a corpse, and at the very least they would leave behind some remains. But this young miss was different. With a raise of her hand, she'd annihilated a person without leaving a single trace in this world. Xuan'ai, don't scare Dong Ming. When those 6 people wanted to deal with me earlier, he even stood out to help me and wanted to fight them to the death. Duan Lingtian shook his head. The coldness in Han Xuan'ai's eyes instantly vanished when she heard this, and replacing it was warmth that was like spring. So that's how it is. I've misunderstood you. I never imagined that you even helped my big brother Ling Tian. Since it's like this, then I'll give you a gift of thanks. As soon as Han Xuan'ai finished speaking, with a raise of her hand, a 3-foot-long blade appeared out of thin air, and it whistled out before firmly descending before Dong Ming and piercing into the ground. This is? Dong Ming was shocked, and when he recovered from his shock, he looked at Han Xuan'ai with a bewildered expression. This is the grade 2 spirit sword I obtained in the 3rd level. I reckon big brother Ling Tian wouldn't fancy it now. Take it. As Han Xuan'ai spoke, she slightly turned her head to look at Duan Ling Tian, and her gaze was filled with deep meaning. This caused Duan Ling Tian's heart to be unable to help but jerk. Could it be that this little girl knows something? Grade 2 spirit sword. Dong Ming's body trembled when he heard Han Xuan'ai, and then he looked at the spirit sword before him with an astonished expression, and he was extremely excited in his heart. After a short moment he recovered from his shock and looked at Han Xuan'ai. You really want to give it to me? What? You don't want it? Han Xuan'ai's beautiful brows raised as she said indifferently, if you don't want it, then I'll take it back now. No, I want it. Dong Ming was instantly anxious when he heard the young girl, and he grabbed the grade 2 spirit sword and directly put it away in his spatial ring, deeply afraid the young girl would really regret it. After he put away the grade 2 spirit sword, Dong Ming heaved a sigh of relief, and then he looked at the young girl and hurriedly thanked her. Thank you, young Miss Xuan'ai, thank you, young Miss Xuan'ai. Why haven't little black, little white, and little gold come out yet? Han Xuan'ai looked at the surroundings and frowned, and a trace of worry was mixed between her brows. Although Duan Lingtian didn't say anything, the worry on his face could still be discerned. Time silently flowed by. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. 3 hours later. Bang. An enormous bang sounded out, and it caused Duan Lingtian, Han Xuan'ai, and Dong Ming to wake up from their dreams. In next to no time, they saw the distant cavern split open, and a thick and heavy stone door appeared within it, and it was slowly rising up. Squeak squeak, a familiar cry sounded out, and it caused Duan Lingtian to feel as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Chapter 626. Swoosh. The little gold mouse transformed into a golden bolt of lightning that flashed out to descend onto Duan Lingtian's shoulder. Little gold, you finally come out. How was it? How many of those 6 tests did you pass? Duan Lingtian looked at the little gold mouse as he asked with a smile. Earlier, when he heard Xuan'ai speak of her encounter on the 3rd floor, Duan Lingtian realized that the test that everyone that entered the 3rd floor ought to be the same. Of course, the last test, the mirror puppet, was different. Everyone was facing their own mirror puppet. 2. The little gold mouse drooped its head as it spoke with slight dejection. You only passed 2 tests? Which 2? Duan Lingtian was stunned. The 100 origin shadow puppets and the earth puppet test. I failed the others. The little gold mouse spoke dejectedly. But its childish voice didn't bring out its current feelings in the slightest. Looks like my results aren't bad. Han Xuan'ai walked over to Duan Lingtian and stretched out her hand to stroke the little gold mouse's smooth back as she spoke with a light smile. She'd found balance on the little gold mouse. The little gold mouse instead closed its eyes comfortably and enjoyed Han Xuan'ai's stroke. It didn't reject Han Xuan'ai in the slightest. Perhaps it was because Han Xuan'ai had once helped it take revenge. Although Han Xuan'ai didn't directly kill all the higher-ups of the Eastern Mulberry Empire's Tang clan, it was Han Xuanai that sealed them in ice, allowing the little gold mouse to have the chance to kill them. The little gold mouse possessed intelligence that wasn't inferior to a human, so it naturally knew that if it wasn't for Han Xuanai, it would be impossible for it to take revenge. Presently, when he saw Duan Lingtian, Han Xuanai, and the little gold mouse talking and laughing, Dong Ming, who stood nearby, was dumbstruck. A mouse that can speak. It's a void interpretation stage demon beast? Dong Ming felt that the amount of surprise he had experienced in his entire life was not as much as what he had experienced in the past few days. What kind of people and demonic beasts are those by Brother Ling Tian's side? For a moment, Dong Ming felt his scalp go numb. Brother Ling Tian. The little gold mouse blinked her pair of jade-green eyes as she stared at Duan Ling Tian and asked, "How many tests have you passed?" Duan Ling Tian looked at the little gold mouse and didn't answer directly, but instead said via voice transmission, "All passed." "Pass all of them?" Shock instantly appeared in the depths of the little gold mouse's eyes. This scene just happened to be noticed by Han Xuanai, and Han Xuanai sent a voice transmission into Duan Ling Tian's ears. "Big Brother Ling Tian, this isn't fair. You only told little gold and not me. You little girl, don't you already know?" Duan Ling Tian laughed bitterly as he replied. The reason he didn't speak directly and chose to send a voice transmission wasn't because he didn't want to tell Han Xuanai, but because he was afraid of frightening Dong Ming, who was standing nearby. Duan Ling Tian, however, didn't know. Presently, Dong Ming had already been frightened by the three of them, and no matter how frightened he was, he wouldn't feel too much of it. Because he was already numb. Even if something unbelievable happened to Duan Ling Tian, he wouldn't feel it was strange. "How would I know if you didn't tell me?" Han Xuanai's voice transmission carried slight grievance when she heard Duan Ling Tian, and her face even revealed a delicate and pitiful expression as tears welled up in her eyes. The current her was simply like a completely different person compared to the her from before that was chatting and killing decisively. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and said via voice transmission with slight helplessness, "Alright, I'll tell you. I've passed all the tests. Didn't you already guess it when you looked at me with that gaze earlier? I only felt earlier that Big Brother Ling Tian might have passed all the tests. I didn't completely confirm it." As Han Xuanai's voice transmission finished, her delicate and pitiful expression vanished, and her tone was filled with surprise. "Big Brother Ling Tian, how did you pass the first and last tests?" When facing the curious Han Xuanai, Duan Ling Tian didn't conceal anything and spoke of his experiences. Of course, he omitted the memories of Emperor Wu of Samsara. A grade 1 spirit sword is actually an unformed sword embryo? Moreover, it's within a pile of scrap metal in the surroundings of the cavern? After Han Xuanai heard about Duan Lingtian's experience during the first test, she couldn't help but grumble. That martial monarch is truly too deceitful. Who would have known that a grade 1 spirit sword would be an inconspicuous and ugly sword embryo? Most importantly, it was hidden within a pile of scrap metal. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled when he heard Xuanai's grumbling. The first test was a technical job. Perhaps only a high-grade weapons craftsman would be able to find such an inconspicuous grade 1 spirit sword. "Big Brother Ling Tian, how did you find that grade 1 spirit sword?" Han Xuanai couldn't help but ask curiously. "I'm a weapons craftsman." Duan Ling Tian's answer was very simple and direct. "So Big Brother Ling Tian is a weapons craftsman? No wonder." Han Xuanai came to a sudden realization. Weapons craftsmen have a unique eye for spirit weapons. I heard that many weapons craftsmen are even able to discern the grade of a spirit weapon just by looking at its appearance. Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Being an alchemist was a skill to begin with, and after refining many spirit weapons, one would naturally have an extraordinary perception and eye towards spirit weapons. Then what about the last test? Han Xuanai asked. I was helpless against my mirror puppet. In the end, we fought to a draw, but the time was up and we were stopped by the inscription formation. Otherwise, she would have defeated me sooner or later. Big Brother Ling Tian, how did you deal with your mirror puppet? Han Xuanai blinked her beautiful eyes as she looked curiously at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian smiled. Xuanai, actually, I didn't really deal with it, I just lured it. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian spoke of the specific process of the last test. That works. Han Xuanai's expression froze and she said with slight vexation, why didn't I think of it? So the last test could be so simple. Big Brother Ling Tian, you're too smart. Han Xuanai looked at Duan Ling Tian with a face full of admiration. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian felt lightheaded, and at the same time he could not help but blush. After all, that was not the method he found. That was the method in the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu. On the other hand, he was only borrowing the method of others. Big brother Ling Tian, in this case you've obtained the martial emperor's inheritance? When Han Xuanai sent a voice transmission to Duan Ling Tian again, she was inexplicably excited. The martial emperor's inheritance. Even she was quite interested in it. Duan Ling Tian was just about to tell Xuanai about the martial emperor's inheritance when he was suddenly interrupted by two loud bangs. Bang! Bang! Two loud bangs sounded out, and Duan Ling Tian's gaze landed on two more holes on the other side of the cave wall in the distance. Inside the cave, the two large doors slowly rose up. At the same time, whoosh, whoosh, two bolts of lightning, one black and one white, flashed out from behind the two large doors respectively, and their target was Duan Ling Tian. After a while, the two little pythons, one black and one white, appeared on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder. Hiss hiss, they flicked their forked tongues excitedly and licked Duan Ling Tian's cheeks. Big brother Ling Tian, looks like little black and little white are closer to you. They went to look for you as soon as they came out. Han Xuanai stood at the side, and her tone was somewhat sour. Hiss hiss. After hearing Han Xuanai's words, the two little pythons immediately left Duan Ling Tian considerately and flashed to Han Xuanai's shoulder, flicking their forked tongues to comfort Han Xuanai. Only then did Han Xuanai reveal a satisfied smile. Duan Ling Tian smiled slightly. In terms of actual age, this girl was at least in her early 20s. But it was indeed rare for her to be able to maintain such a childlike innocence. Little black, little white, how many tests have the two of you passed? Duan Ling Tian looked at the two little pythons and asked curiously. Squeak squeak. Meanwhile, the little gold mouse looked at the two little pythons with interest as well, and her pair of jade green eyes obviously carried slight perturbation. Obviously, she was worried that the results of the two little pythons would surpass her. When she found out that the two little pythons had only passed 2 tests just like her, the little gold mouse leaped for joy. What little black and little white passed was also the 2 tests of the 100 origin shadow puppets and earth puppets. However, to little gold, little black, and little white, the other 4 tests were indeed slightly more difficult. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. It's good that the two of you are fine. As for those tests, it doesn't matter if you pass or not. Duan Ling Tian looked at the 2 little pythons and consoled. Duan Ling Tian, who'd experienced the 6 tests in the 3rd level of the Sword Monarch's treasure, knew clearly. There was a certain amount of risk of being killed in the 3 tests of strength. Being able to survive was undoubtedly an extremely fortunate thing. Hiss hiss. After Duan Ling Tian consoled them, the 2 little pythons that were originally dispirited became excited once more. Big brother Ling Tian, you haven't told me about the martial monarch's inheritance you obtained earlier. Han Xuanai's voice transmission sounded out once more by Duan Ling Tian's ears. Right when Duan Ling Tian intended to answer Han Xuanai, history repeated itself once more. An enormous bang sounded out and interrupted Duan Ling Tian once more. Bang! The distant cavern wall split open with a bang, and the shattered rocks fell to the ground as a door that slowly rose up appeared within the cavern. Under the focused gazes of Duan Ling Tian, Han Xuanai, and Dong Ming, an azure-colored old figure walked out from within. Elder Hu. The azure-clothed old man had just walked out when Dong Ming had already cried out in shock, and his eyes were filled with burning desire. The person that had come out now was precisely the expert he'd specially invited for the Sword Monarch's treasure. Moreover, he'd reached an agreement with the old man that they would share everything they obtained in the Sword Monarch's treasure equally. Elder Hu walked out and glanced indifferently at Dong Ming before rising into the sky with the intention of leaving the Sword Monarch's treasure. Elder Hu. The expression of Dong Ming, who was originally looking forward to Elder Hu sharing the gains equally with him, went slightly grim, and he hurriedly rose into the sky to stop Elder Hu. Fuck off right now if you don't want to die. Elder Hu glared angrily at Dong Ming as he shouted with a grim voice. Elder Hu. Have you forgotten our agreement? Dong Ming asked with a low voice. Agreement? What agreement? Elder Hu grunted coldly. Elder Hu, you said that no matter what we obtain after entering the Sword Monarch's treasure, we have to share it equally. Could it be that it isn't so? Chapter 627. Dong Ming, are you questioning me? Elder Hu's face sank slightly when he heard Dong Ming. I didn't mean that. I just wanted to remind Elder Hu that if it wasn't for me, it would be impossible for you to enter the Sword Monarch's treasure. Dong Ming spoke out. His words undoubtedly expressed a meaning. If it wasn't for me possessing the key to the Sword Monarch's treasure, if it wasn't for me bringing you here, it would be utterly impossible for an old fellow like you to encroach on the Sword Monarch's treasure. Dong Ming's words caused Elder Hu's expression to become even more gloomy. For a time he wanted to flare up. But when his gaze inadvertently flashed past the two people that were calmly looking at him and Dong Ming on the ground, he couldn't help but suppress his rage. He took a deep breath and didn't directly shed all pretenses with Dong Ming. I naturally remember that agreement. But I didn't obtain anything from the third level of the Sword Monarch's treasure this time, so how can I split the treasures equally with you? Elder Hu's expression recovered its calm as he spoke indifferently. The current Elder Hu was like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. You have a good plan, I have a way out. It was more or less like this. You didn't obtain anything? Dong Ming's face went grim. Elder Hu's shamelessness had exceeded his imagination. Elder Hu, according to my knowledge, the first test you entered the third level was to give you a spirit sword. It's best if it's a grade 1 spirit sword, and the worst is a grade 3 spirit sword. Now you're telling me that you didn't obtain any treasures in the third level? Do you think I would believe you? As he finished speaking, Dong Ming's tone carried slight rage, and he'd completely shed all pretenses. Or perhaps you think I'm easy to fool? I don't know what you're talking about. What spirit sword? I don't know anything. Slight astonishment flashed deep within Elder Hu's gaze, and he was obviously surprised that Dong Ming actually knew what he'd encountered. But his expression still remained unchanged as he continued. If it was someone that didn't know, then perhaps they would really be deceived by him. But was it possible for him to deceive Dong Ming, who'd already understood the test of the third level? Elder Hu, I can give up on the spirit sword you obtained. But please take out the other treasures you obtained. Dong Ming spoke directly and straightforwardly. I've already said that I didn't obtain any treasures. If you dare to continue blabbering, I'll definitely kill you. Elder Hu said with a sullen face. His words were full of threats. Ah! Suddenly, Dong Ming roared with laughter, and his laughter was filled with slight sorrow. I truly never imagined that Elder Hu would change just like that in the face of absolute benefits. If I knew earlier, then even if I brought a dog to the Sword Monarch's treasure, it would still be better than bringing you. You dare to call me worse than a dog? Elder Hu's expression changed greatly. The origin energy on his body skyrocketed like a ball of extremely violent white flames, and he was ready to rush up and swallow Dong Ming at any time. Is it not? After Dong Ming shed all pretense of cordiality, he no longer had any misgivings. If you don't think so, do you dare to remove the ownership of the spatial ring in your hand and show it to me? If there isn't a third-grade spirit artifact or above, I will definitely not pester you anymore. Dong Ming, if you still don't move aside, then you'll surely die a graveless death. Dong Ming's every word made Elder Hu's face turn uglier. In the end, Elder Hu completely exploded. The origin energy on his body was even more profound, and the power of intent was faintly discernible. He immediately intended to make a move and kill Dong Ming. Dong Ming, where did you find this old fellow? He's actually so shameless. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian had already soared into the sky to stand by Dong Ming's side, and he shrugged as he spoke lazily. You. When he saw Duan Lingtian wanted to stand out for Dong Ming, Elder Hu's face went grim, and slight fear appeared between his brows. He wasn't afraid of Duan Lingtian. He was afraid of the young woman by Duan Lingtian's side. Even if he obtained some gains in the third level of the Sword Monarch's treasure and his strength had improved greatly, he felt that he was far from being a match for the young woman. The gap between the void initiation stage and void interpretation stage was too great, and it was like a chasm that was impossible to surmount. What about me? Duan Lingtian glanced lazily at Elder Hu as he asked indifferently. This matter is a private matter between me and Dong Ming, so please don't interfere. Elder Hu took a deep breath and worked hard to suppress the flames of rage in his heart. What if I insist on interfering? Suddenly, Duan Lingtian's face was covered in a smile. His smile was bright and resplendent, yet when it entered into the eyes of Elder Hu, it caused his expression to be unable to refrain from going grim. But Elder Hu's expression quickly calmed down, and he glared fiercely at Dong Ming as he said via voice transmission, Dong Ming, you win. I'll spare your life today, but you won't be so lucky in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Hu soared into the sky and intended to leave. When they saw Elder Hu about to leave, Duan Lingtian and Dong Ming stood on the spot without making any movements. Right at this moment, whoosh, a cold wind that was filled with an icy cold aura blew by, and a beautiful figure appeared at the entrance of the Sword Monarch's treasure. This was a yellow-clothed young woman, and as she stood there, The surrounding air seemed to be frozen by the icy cold aura emitted from her body. The young woman had a beautiful appearance, and it could be imagined that she would surely be a drop-dead gorgeous beauty when she grew up. Young Miss Xuanai. When he saw the young woman appear and obstruct his path, Elder Hu took a deep breath and said slowly, "I've already decided not to make things difficult for Dong Ming any longer. I wonder what you want to do." "Do what?" The yellow-clothed young woman was precisely Han Xuanai, and when she heard Elder Hu, a devilish smile bloomed on her face. "Of course it's to kill you." Practically at the instant Han Xuanai finished speaking, the surrounding air became slightly icy cold once more. Elder Hu's face went grim. Right at this instant, whoosh, Han Xuanai made a move. With a raise of her hand, strong winds that were icy cold to the extreme swept out and enveloped Elder Hu from all directions, causing Elder Hu to have no place to flee. "No." Elder Hu's face went grim as he cried out in sorrow, and the origin energy beneath his feet skyrocketed as he wanted to flee before he was frozen into an ice sculpture. But would he be able to flee? Needless to say, the speed of an 8th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artist was extremely swift. But would it be swift enough to surpass the speed of a Void Interpretation Stage expert like Han Xuanai? The answer was no. Swish, swish. The strong winds that were icy cold to the extreme swept out and covered Elder Hu's body, causing him to have nowhere to flee. In the next moment, Elder Hu's body stiffened as he stopped on the spot and transformed into a lifelike ice sculpture. Through the layer of ice, one could see that Elder Hu's pupils had constricted and his face was covered in a panicked expression, and this obviously showed how terrified and despaired he was before he transformed into an ice sculpture. The origin energy on Elder Hu, who was frozen into an ice sculpture, was gradually obliterated, and in the end, it transformed into nothingness. Meanwhile, the ice sculpture fell to the ground with a bang, and it transformed into pieces that covered the entire ground. 8th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artist, dead. Whoosh! Along with Han Xuanai raising her hand, a piece of ice on the ground flew up and descended into her hand, and there was a spatial ring within it. Through the layer of ice, one could see that the spatial ring was extremely ancient, and its grade wasn't low. Whoosh! At the instant Han Xuanai spoke, origin energy bloomed from her hand, and the ice gradually melted to only leave behind the spatial ring in the end. "Here." With a raise of her hand, Han Xuanai tossed the spatial ring in her hand to Dong Ming. Dong Ming hurriedly received it and looked at Han Xuanai with gratitude. "Thank you, young Miss Xuanai. Thank you, young Miss Xuanai. You've helped Big Brother Ling Tian and he wants to help you as well, so I naturally won't stand by idly." Han Xuanai nodded indifferently. Duan Ling Tian stood at the side and smiled lightly. "Xuanai, we ought to leave as well." Xuanai smiled as she replied, and then she soared into the sky to leave the Sword Monarch's treasure with Duan Ling Tian and Dong Ming, and they passed through the door that was enveloped by the inscription formation to once again return to the depths of the sea. On the other hand, the colossus that lay there at the entrance of the Sword Monarch's treasure had finally moved. "Big guy." Xuanai was the first to fly out and descend onto the colossus' back. Awu, when it saw Han Xuanai, the colossus cried out in a low voice, and its voice contained slight trembling mixed within. Obviously, it was traumatized in its heart. The colossus was precisely the three-eyed flame tiger, the Empire Guardian demon beast of the Darkstone Empire. On the other hand, Duan Ling Tian and Dong Ming returned to the back of the three-eyed flame tiger as well, and they didn't have to worry about being unable to resist the pressure of the depths of the sea while being enveloped by the origin energy barrier of the three-eyed flame tiger. "Big guy, let's go." Along with Xuanai speaking, the three-eyed flame tiger's limbs stomped on the ground. Rumble. Rumble. At the depths of the sea, the ground quaked and the mountains swayed. The three-eyed flame tiger transformed into a swift flowing light that flashed upwards. Everywhere it passed, the seawater split apart and spread towards the sides, and it swept out extremely vast. Not long after, Duan Ling Tian and the others rode on the three-eyed flame tiger to leave the boundlessly vast sea and return to the surface of the sea. All along the way, even though they'd encountered many ferocious beasts at the bottom of the sea, all of them were directly annihilated by the three-eyed flame tiger. As for demon beasts, they'd been terrified to the point of hiding at the side since long ago when facing a terrifying existence like the three-eyed flame tiger. This expanse of sea wasn't far from Cloud Continent, and the strength of the demon beasts that concealed themselves here was ordinary. If the three-eyed flame tiger was willing, it was entirely capable of dominating this expanse of sea with its formidable strength. "Big fellow, let's return to the Darkstone Empire first," Duan Ling Tian said to the three-eyed flame tiger. He intended to send Dong Ming back first before returning to the Darkhan dynasty's capital. Unknowingly, another few months have passed. The dynasty martial competition is getting closer and closer. Duan Lingtian looked towards the direction of the Darkhan dynasty, and his gaze flickered as he muttered in his heart. After notifying Xuanai and Dong Ming, Duan Lingtian sat cross-legged on the back of the three-eyed flame tiger and started cultivating 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique Earth Dragon form. At the same time, a milky white stone appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand, and it was precisely the low-grade origin stone he'd obtained from the Sword Monarch's treasure. Presently, Duan Lingtian held the low-grade origin stone and absorbed the condensed spirit energy within the origin stone to cultivate, causing his cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds, and it couldn't be compared to before. As he felt the vast origin energy within his body, the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled into a faint smile. Low-grade origin stones were completely exhausted by Duan Lingtian one after another. Chapter 628. Because when they headed to the location of the Sword Monarch's treasure earlier, the three-eyed flame tiger had chased after the Jade Sword, and because the Jade Sword's speed couldn't be considered to be swift, its speed had intentionally slowed down greatly. This time there was no need to chase after the Jade Sword, and the three-eyed flame tiger only spent half a month of time to send Duan Lingtian's group of 3 back to the Darkstone Empire. Swoosh! The three-eyed flame tiger dashed through the sky, and it seemed to have transformed into an enormous flaming cloud that swept past, leaving behind an expanse of crimson-red light in the horizon that was dazzling and gorgeous. On the back of the three-eyed flame tiger that was wide like a football field, the yellow-clothed young woman stood behind the three-eyed flame tiger's head, and 2 little pythons coiled around her wrists. The little pythons didn't move, and they might be cultivating or sleeping. Not far away, a sturdy middle-aged man sat there, quietly cultivating. Besides that, there was also a violet-clothed young man that sat cross-legged in the distance without the slightest movement, and he seemed like a statue that didn't have any signs of life. The little gold mouse that was lying on the shoulder of the violet-clothed young man suddenly woke up, and she slowly stood up before lazily stretching herself. After she noticed that the violet-clothed young man was still cultivating, the little gold mouse's jade-green eyes flickered for a moment before transforming into a golden light that flashed out and pointed directly at the yellow-clothed young woman in the distance. After a short moment, she arrived at the young woman's shoulder. "Big Sister Xuanai, Big Sister Xuanai." The little gold mouse stood on the young woman's shoulder and lightly rubbed against the young woman's neck that was white like jade, and it seemed to be extremely intimate. "Little gold, you're awake." Han Xuanai smiled lightly as she stretched out her hand to stroke the little gold mouse. "We've already returned to the Darkstone Empire. I wonder when Big Brother Ling Tian will be able to wake up." Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse's eyes flickered with slight anticipation as she looked at the violet-clothed young man that was cultivating in the distance when she heard this. Time silently flowed by. Not long after, the robust middle-aged man that was cultivating at the side woke up, and a wave of excitement appeared on his face as he looked down at the boundless ground beneath his feet. Darkstone Empire. I've finally returned. As someone that lived near this area of the Darkstone Empire, he was extremely familiar with this area. Brother Ling Tian hasn't woken up yet. The robust middle-aged man was precisely Dong Ming, and after he glanced at the violet-clothed young man in the distance, he looked at the yellow-clothed young girl that stood behind the three-eyed flame tiger's head. "Miss Xuanai, my home is nearby, so I won't continue disturbing you and Brother Ling Tian. Please help me pass on my message when Brother Ling Tian wakes up." Dong Ming prepared to leave. "Yes." Han Xuanai glanced at Duan Ling Tian, who hadn't completely woken up yet, and nodded gently. "When Brother Ling Tian wakes up, I'll tell him. Then I'll have to trouble you, Miss Xuanai." Dong Ming nodded respectfully to Han Xuanai, then glanced at Duan Ling Tian before flying away. He had always been grateful to Duan Ling Tian. Since the beginning, Duan Ling Tian had been helping him, and later on, it was because of Duan Ling Tian that he'd obtained an extremely great fortuitous encounter. The Grade 2 Spirit Sword Elder whose gains from the 3rd level of the Sword Monarch's treasure, and all the wealth of Elder who had now become his. If it was in the past, this was something that was difficult for him to imagine, and he didn't dare imagine. Now all of this had come true. Moreover, all of this was due to this violet-clothed young man. No matter if he was able to meet this mysterious violet-clothed young man again in the future, he would surely engrave this kindness in his heart in his entire lifetime. If he had the chance to repay the violet-clothed young man, then he would surely go through fire and water without hesitation. A few days later, the three-eyed flame tiger had arrived at the border between the Darkstone Empire and Darkhan Dynasty. Suddenly, a ball of dazzling white-colored flames suddenly rose explosively around the violet-clothed young man that sat upright on the back of the three-eyed flame tiger, and the white flames were ceaselessly rising. Whoosh, in next to no time, the white flames rose explosively to the limit. Whereas at the side of the four ancient horned dragon silhouettes that appeared in the sky above him, another two ancient horned dragon silhouettes suddenly appeared. I've broken through. Duan Lingtian's body trembled as his feelings surged exceedingly, and he abruptly opened his eyes that flowed with lights that were dazzling like an array of stars. At this moment, if someone were to look into Duan Lingtian's eyes, the person would notice that besides a strand of flowing light flickering in the depths of Duan Lingtian's eyes, there were also two dim lights that were faintly discernible. Of course, the dim lights didn't exist for long, and it wasn't long before they were completely annihilated. The appearance of a cactus was nothing more than this. Crackle, crackle. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian abruptly clenched his fists tightly, and a wave of the sound of his bones rubbing together sounded out, and it was clear and pleasing to the ear. My strength has become much stronger. As he felt the strength contained within his body, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but take a deep breath, and his face was covered in delight. After he broke through to the fourth level of the Void Initiation stage, he'd obtained an increase of 2 ancient horned dragons in one go. Such an increase could be considered to be the first time in Duan Lingtian's entire lifetime that he'd obtained such a great improvement, and he'd created a completely new record. Big Brother Lingtian. Right at this moment, Duan Lingtian heard a childish voice sound out by his ears. Swish. A golden light assaulted his face and instantly pounced onto Duan Lingtian's shoulder, and it revealed a fluffy and chubby figure. It was precisely the little gold mouse. Little gold. Duan Lingtian stretched out his hand to hold the little gold mouse in his hand, and then he lightly smiled. Have you broken through during this period of time? Big Brother Lingtian, I've broken through. The little gold mouse raised her head and spoke with slight complacency, and her childish voice seemed to be slightly strange when combined with her tone. Big Brother Lingtian, congratulations. Meanwhile, another voice that was pleasant to the ear like an aureole sounded out. After a short moment, a beautiful figure appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Obviously, she discerned something from Duan Lingtian, and that was why she congratulated him. Xuanai. Duan Lingtian looked at the young woman before him, and the smile on his face grew wider. Big Brother Lingtian, you still haven't told me what the martial monarch's inheritance you obtained is. Han Xuanai spoke to Duan Lingtian. Her large eyes flickered with traces of a sheen of curiosity. Earlier, Duan Lingtian was busy cultivating, and even though she was curious about this, she didn't disturb Duan Lingtian and had always restrained herself from asking. Now, when she saw Duan Lingtian smoothly breaking through, her curiosity instantly arose once more. Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard Han Xuanai, and then he couldn't help but shake his head and smile. He never imagined that this little girl Xuanai would actually be so stubborn. However, to him there was nothing to hide in front of Xuanai. Not to mention Xuanai had always been helpful to him. Even with Xuanai's mysterious and formidable background, she might not be interested in the martial monarch's inheritance he obtained, and at most she would probably be curious. Xuanai at that time Subsequently, Duan Lingtian spoke in detail of what happened after he passed through all the tests in the third level of the Sword Monarch's treasure, and he didn't conceal anything, including the 3 types of profundity fragments. Xuanai, if you're interested in any one of those 3 profundity fragments, then I can give it to you. Duan Lingtian spoke to Han Xuanai. Even though profundity fragments were extremely precious, in Duan Lingtian's heart, it was far from being able to compare to the friendship between him and Han Xuanai. If Han Xuanai needed it, then he wouldn't frown in the slightest even if Han Xuanai gave away 3 profundity fragments. As the saying goes, a tiny bit of kindness should be repaid with a gushing spring. If it wasn't for Han Xuanai helping him all along the way during his trip to the Sword Monarch's treasure this time, it would be very unlikely for him to obtain one of the 10 positions to head to the 3rd level with his cultivation. This was something that Duan Lingtian knew himself well. It could be said that everything he'd obtained in the Sword Monarch's treasure was given to him by Han Xuanai. If it wasn't for Han Xuanai, he would probably have nothing. Big Brother Lingtian, you should keep it for yourself. You'll be able to use the Wind Profundity Fragment and Lightning Profundity Fragment in the future. As for the Sword Profundity Fragment, perhaps it'll be of use in the future. Han Xuanai shook her head and refused Duan Lingtian's good intentions. Han Xuanai didn't even blink when facing the temptation of a profundity fragment. This caused Duan Lingtian to be even more shocked in his heart, and he was even more curious about Han Xuanai's origins. Exactly what background does Han Xuanai have? Even if it was the Emperor Wu of Samsara all those years ago, even though he wouldn't be too excited before a profundity fragment, I'm afraid it would be difficult for him to maintain his composure. Of course, since Han Xuanai didn't want it, Duan Lingtian didn't continue persisting. It was just as Han Xuanai had said. The wind profundity fragment and lightning profundity fragment were profundity fragments that he'd be able to use in the future. As for the sword profundity fragment, Duan Lingtian had plans in his heart. Once he cultivated the Nine Tribulation sword control technique, he would try his best to comprehend sword force and even sword concept. I just happen to have a sword concept fragment in my possession. So long as I comprehend sword concept, I'll be able to comprehend that sword concept fragment and improve the might of my sword concept. Duan Lingtian still remembered. The sword concept fragment in his possession was obtained at the end of the first level of the Sword Monarch's treasure. He'd relied on Han Xuanai's ability to obtain it. Big brother Lingtian, we've already entered the area of the Dark Han Dynasty now. I intend to participate in the Dynasty Martial competition with you. What do you think? Han Xuanai blinked her mischievous eyes as she looked at Duan Lingtian and asked. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched when he heard Han Xuanai. This little girl Xuanai wants to participate in the Dynasty Martial competition? Isn't this clearly bullying others? Duan Lingtian could imagine. If this little girl Xuanai really participated in the Dynasty Martial competition, there would probably be no one that was a match for her. An existence at the void interpretation stage that was even more formidable than the #1 expert of the Inkstone Empire, King Yong, sweeping through all the young geniuses in the Dark Han Dynasty would be nothing difficult. So long as you're interested. Duan Lingtian said, I presume so long as you raise this idea to King Yong, he'll surely be impatient to ask someone to give up a spot for you. This was something that Duan Lingtian could be sure of. With Xuanai's strength, so long as a rare monster like Xuanai didn't appear while representing the Darkstone Empire to participate in the Dynasty Martial competition, then she would definitely obtain the first in the Dynasty Martial competition. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Once we return to the Dark Han Dynasty's capital, I'll ask Uncle Red Mole to give me a spot. Chapter 629. Uncle Red Mole? Duan Lingtian naturally knew who Han Xuanai was talking about, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. In his mind, the red mole between King Yong's brows that was like a congealed blood slowly appeared, and it was so dazzling when it entered his eyes. Only this little girl Xuanai dares call King Yong Uncle Red Mole. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. After the three-eyed flame tiger entered the territory of the Dark Han Dynasty, he headed all the way towards the capital. The Dark Han Dynasty's martial competition would be held in the capital at that time, whereas, Duan Lingtian would represent the Darkstone Empire to compete for the qualifications to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. The martial competition of the dynasties was actually only an appetizer. The martial competition of the 10 dynasties was the true main event. At that time, the young geniuses of the 10 great dynasties including the Dark Han Dynasty would gather together and compete in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties to seize the highest honor. What I need to do now is obtain the qualifications to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties during the Dynasty Martial competition. After that, I'll stand out in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties and use the foreign lands powers as a stepping stone to officially enter the foreign lands. When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian's eyes emitted a dazzling sheen. He knew clearly in his heart that it wasn't an easy thing to obtain the qualifications to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. At the very least, it had a certain level of difficulty to him now. Even if I have origin stones and the advancement of my cultivation is extremely swift. But, it's practically impossible for me to stand out in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties with my current cultivation. It's even to the extent that I might not be able to obtain the qualifications to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties even in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. Duan Lingtian's thoughts spun abruptly as he felt a certain level of pressure. Cultivate. Cultivate. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique Earth Dragon Form. Duan Lingtian sat down cross-legged before withdrawing a mid-grade origin stone and pinching it to cultivate. At the same time, vast origin energy surged out from within his body, and it passed through the meridians in his entire body to ceaselessly surge into his dantian to strengthen his original origin energy. After an unknown number of days, Duan Ling Tian felt his origin energy become saturated once again. Of course, he was still quite a distance away from breaking through to the 5th level of the Void Initiation stage. After consuming a mid-grade primordial stone, Duan Ling Tian took out another mid-grade primordial stone to cultivate. While cultivating, another fragment appeared in Duan Ling Tian's hand. This fragment was precisely the wind concept fragment he obtained in the 2nd level of the Sword Monarch's treasure, and it was a 5th level wind concept fragment. Cultivating the origin energy and comprehending the concept at the same time. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian's strength and concept were also quietly increasing at a rapid pace. He hadn't even walked out of the foreign lands, yet he already possessed such cultivation conditions. If news of this were to spread, then even those experts that stood at the peak of the Darkhan dynasty would probably be jealous. No matter if it was mid-grade origin stones or concept fragments, they were both things that were difficult for them to obtain. In the Darkhan dynasty, low-grade origin stones would at most appear. These low-grade origin stones were basically from the origin stone veins of the various dynasties. Origin stone veins were the foundation of a dynasty. Of course, the origin stone veins of the various dynasties were all origin stone veins of the lowest grade, and low-grade origin stones would appear at most. It was impossible for them to extract mid-grade origin stones and high-grade origin stones. But even then it was already shocking. Once I walk out of the foreign lands, so long as it's a power that's ranked and has some resources and reserves, practically all of them possess an origin stone vein of their own. An origin stone vein is the foundation of a power's foundation. Only those small powers that are inferior to the various dynasties don't have fixed origin stone veins to extract. Through the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu, Duan Ling Tian knew the situation in the foreign lands like the back of his hand. The stronger a power in the foreign lands was, the more origin stone veins it possessed, and the higher grade it was. For example, the few top powers in the foreign lands. Practically all the origin stone veins they possessed were high-grade origin stone veins, and top-grade origin stones would occasionally appear amongst them. A single top-grade origin stone was comparable to 100 high-grade origin stones. The preciousness of top-grade origin stones was obvious. Another few days passed. Duan Ling Tian woke up and looked down at the vast expanse of land beneath the three-eyed flame tiger, then muttered. We've already passed the Darkhan dynasty's southern desolation. Milky Way City is not far ahead. Xuanai. Duan Ling Tian looked at Han Xuanai and said, I want to make a trip to Milky Way City before returning to the capital. Duan Ling Tian had come to Milky Way City once before. He'd stayed for 3 months that time. During these 3 months of time, besides going to the Milky Way City's treasure-gathering pavilion to post a bounty for the Ageless Root, he'd also walked around Milky Way City for a while, and before he left, he'd even made a deal with the pavilion master of the treasure-gathering pavilion. Until now, Duan Ling Tian still couldn't help but be slightly excited when he thought of that deal. That was a deal that was sure to be profitable. Relying on a grade 4 spirit sword to exchange for 2 spirit fruits and a grade 4 spirit sword. Not only that, the pavilion master of the treasure-gathering pavilion, Xiang Ying, had even promised to spare no effort to help him find the Ageless Root. Now, I wonder if that pavilion master Xiang has found the Ageless Root for me? No matter if he found it or not, I still have to make a trip. Otherwise, if he really found it and I didn't go get it in time, then I would have missed it. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. The Ageless Root was related to the rebirth pill. Presently, Duan Ling Tian had already more or less prepared the medicinal materials required for the rebirth pill. The most important primary medicinal ingredient, the red luan's blood, and the secondary medicinal ingredient, the phoenix feathergrass, had already been obtained. Now he only lacked the other secondary medicinal ingredient, the Ageless Root. So long as he found the Ageless Root, he would be able to refine the rebirth pill right away, and then rely on the medicinal strength of the rebirth pill to allow his cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds. With the peerlessly overbearing medicinal strength of the rebirth pill, if I consume it, I'll be able to charge into the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage or above in a short period of time. When the martial competition of the 10 dynasties begins 1.5 years later, I might even have already relied on the medicinal strength of the rebirth pill to break through to the Void Interpretation stage in one go. Void Interpretation stage. When he thought up to here, Duan Ling Tian's mood couldn't help but surge. Yes. Han Xuanai nodded, then asked, Big brother Ling Tian, where's that Han River City? It's not far ahead. Over there. As Duan Ling Tian spoke, the distant clouds and mist dispersed, and a small black dot appeared before his eyes, and it was precisely Han River City. Big guy, go to that city ahead. Meanwhile, Han Xuanai instructed the three-eyed flame tiger. Awu, the three-eyed flame tiger roared in a low voice, then transformed into a crimson-red waterfall that headed directly towards the small black dot in the distance. Whereas the small black dot grew larger and larger. In the end, it transformed into an exceedingly enormous city that was like an enormous beast that lay there, and it caused others to be unable to refrain from feeling shocked in their hearts. It was precisely Han River City. Big guy, you don't have to go down with us. Duan Lingtian spoke to the three-eyed flame tiger, then he bid farewell to Han Xuanai, and the two of them flew out together to slowly descend towards Han River City. As for the little gold mouse and the two little pythons they were currently cultivating. The two little pythons coiled around Han Xuanai's white wrist and didn't move in the slightest, whereas the little gold mouse instead lay on Duan Lingtian's shoulder with her limbs facing the sky, and she looked as if she'd fallen asleep. Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai flew down to descend outside the treasure-gathering pavilion in Han River City, and for a time, it drew the attention of many people. Foreign kid, you're so ignorant of the rules. Let your grandfather, I, properly teach you. Suddenly, a sonorous explosive shout sounded out. After that, a figure that was swift like a bolt of lightning flashed directly towards Duan Lingtian and attacked Duan Lingtian. In the sky, the energy of heaven and earth roiled before finally transforming into the silhouette of an ancient horned dragon that dashed out with its bloody maw wide open as it pounced towards Duan Lingtian. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. Under the gazes of everyone present, the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth moved slightly as he slowly spat out 4 words. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian abruptly raised his hand. Whoosh! Origin energy skyrocketed and coiled around his hand before finally converging at the tip of his index finger and condensing into an origin energy light. In the next moment, Tempest Point. The material origin energy finger force instantly shot out from the tip of Duan Lingtian's finger, and it was like a bolt of lightning that flashed past to intercept the Duan Lingtian that pounced towards Duan Lingtian. The speed of the burly man was slow like a turtle before this bolt of lightning. Swish! The origin energy finger force flashed past, and it even didn't contain any concept as it easily penetrated the space between the burly man's brows. A bloody hole appeared between the burly man's brows and fresh blood sprayed out. Bang! The burly man's body stopped in midair, and his eyes dimmed before his entire body crashed down to fiercely fall onto the ground. Silence. The surroundings were deathly silent. 6 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. The expressions of the surrounding spectators went slightly grim as they looked at the 6 ancient horned dragon silhouettes that gradually dispersed above the violet-clothed young man, and their eyes were filled with fear. He didn't utilize force or concept and was able to draw upon the energy of heaven and earth to form such a phenomenon with merely his origin energy. He's a 4th-level void initiation stage martial artist. Someone couldn't help but exclaim in shock. Heavens! How old is he? 4th-level void initiation stage. He's simply a monster. He's too young. That fellow is really unfortunate. What does it have to do with him how he wants to enter the city? A mere 7th-level void prying stage martial artist dares to easily take the edge of a 4th-level void initiation stage martial artist? He's really courting death. That person is simply courting death. The surrounding crowd of spectators discussed animatedly, and they shook their heads as they looked at the corpse that fell on the ground. A 7th-level void prying stage martial artist was gone just like that. Xuanai, let's go. From the moment he made a move to killing that ignorant burly man, it was only an instant, and it seemed to not affect Duan Lingtian in the slightest. From the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian had a carefree expression, and his expression wouldn't change even if Mount Tai collapsed before him. It was as if everything that had happened earlier wasn't the slightest bit related to him. Yes. Xuanai nodded and followed Duan Lingtian to walk towards the treasure-gathering pavilion. Customer, do you need anything? The attendant at the entrance of the treasure-gathering pavilion had witnessed the scene from before with his own 2 eyes, and the gaze he looked at Duan Lingtian and Xuanai was filled with reverence. I've come to look for your pavilion master. Duan Lingtian looked at the attendant as he spoke slowly. Customer, how do I address you? Hearing that Duan Lingtian had come to look for their pavilion master caused the attendant to be even more terrified. My surname is Duan. Chapter 630. My surname is Duan. Duan Lingtian's short sentence caused the expression of the attendant from the treasure-gathering pavilion to go pale. He still remembered the words their pavilion master left behind a few months ago. Anyone with the surname of Duan must be invited into the treasure-gathering pavilion with the most respectful etiquette. If anyone neglects an esteemed guest, then they must be heavily punished. Guest, please come in. When he thought up to here, the attendant broke out in cold sweat. Then he lowered his head and respectfully made a gesture to welcome Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai into the treasure-gathering pavilion. On the other hand, the group of people outside the treasure-gathering pavilion were completely dumbstruck. Who the heck are they? They're actually able to make the members of the treasure-gathering pavilion treat them with such respectful etiquette. Based on the current situation, their identities aren't simple. Of course. If their identities were simple, then how could they make the members of the treasure-gathering pavilion act like this? According to me, they might even have a deep relationship with our Milky Way City's treasure-gathering pavilion's Lord Pavilion. If it's really like this, then this fellow is really blind to have offended such an existence. The group of people that were discussing couldn't help but shoot their gazes towards the corpse of the burly man that lay on the ground. As for Duan Lingtian, he paid no attention to the bustle behind him. Presently, he and Han Xuanai directly entered the treasure-gathering pavilion to see the pavilion master, Xiang Ying, under the lead of the attendant. Brother Lingtian. Xiang Ying seemed to be extremely happy to see Duan Lingtian once more. Pavilion Master Xiang. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled as he replied, then introduced Han Xuanai to Xiang Ying and introduced Han Xuanai to Xiang Ying. Miss Xuanai. Xiang Ying lightly smiled and nodded to Han Xuanai, then paid no further attention to Han Xuanai and instead looked at Duan Lingtian as he sighed. Brother Lingtian, you ought to have come this time for the ageless route, right? I'm truly sorry, up until now, even though I've utilized all my connections, I still haven't obtained any news related to the ageless route. Duan Lingtian was not surprised that Xiang Ying knew the reason for his visit. However, when he found out about the result, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. Don't worry, I'll think of something else. Duan Lingtian shook his head and squeezed out a smile. Brother Lingtian, don't worry. I'll do my best to continue searching for the whereabouts of the ageless route. Xiang Ying solemnly vowed. Then I'll thank Pavilion Master Xiang first. Duan Lingtian nodded and then said, since there's still no news of the ageless route, then Xuanai and I will be leaving first. Pavilion Master Xiang, farewell. After Duan Lingtian and Xiang Ying said their goodbyes, they left Jubao Pavilion together with Han Xuanai. Walking out of the Jubao Pavilion, Duan Lingtian could see many respectful gazes falling on him. It was even to the extent that all along the way discussions about him were being spread out everywhere. Supposedly, this young man has a deep relationship with the pavilion master of our Milky Way City's treasure-gathering pavilion. Even the attendants of the treasure-gathering pavilion are extremely respectful to him. He wouldn't be the illegitimate son of the pavilion master, right? Even though the pavilion master's reputation spreads far and wide in our Darkhan dynasty, he ought to be unable to give birth to such an outstanding son. Perhaps all of you don't know, but this young man is already a 4th-level void initiation stage martial artist at such a young age. It can't be, right? He's a 4th-level void initiation stage martial artist? Yes. Earlier, before the treasure-gathering pavilion, he made a move for a short period of time, and he killed the 7th-level void prying stage martial artist that attacked him for no reason with a single point of his finger. Waves of intense discussions clearly entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. Duan Lingtian paid no attention to this. He directly soared into the sky and returned to the sky above Milky Way City with Han Xuanai, returning to the sky above the three-eyed flame tiger. But when they arrived high up in the sky and saw the three-eyed flame tiger, they couldn't help but be stunned. Presently, the three-eyed flame tiger stood in the sky in the distance, and its enormous body was trembling intensely, as if it had suffered some sort of pressure. It wasn't just that. Duan Lingtian, who had sharp eyes, noticed that slight terror seemed to be mixed within the depths of the three-eyed flame tiger's eyes. It was terror that came from the bones and the depths of the soul. Squeak, squeak! Suddenly, the little gold mouse that lay on Duan Lingtian's shoulder with its 4 feet in the sky woke up, and it cried out in shock as its fluffy and chubby body lightly trembled. It seemed as if it had sensed something terrifying. Hiss, hiss! Meanwhile, the 2 little pythons that were curled up on Han Xuanai's wrist had successively awoken from their cultivation, and they swiftly flicked their tongues as their 2 pairs of sharp eyes flickered with an unusual sheen. What's going on? Duan Lingtian's face went slightly grim, and he hurriedly looked around the surroundings with the intention of searching for the reason that caused the demon beasts to act strangely. But, no matter how he searched, even if his spiritual force swept out, he still came up empty-handed in the end. If it wasn't for him seeing the demon beasts act strangely with his own two eyes, he might really think that there was no person or demon beast in the surroundings. Even my spiritual force is unable to detect his depth. From this, it can be seen that his cultivation is at least at the void interpretation stage or above. Duan Lingtian was greatly shocked in his heart, and he took a deep breath as his eyes were filled with fear. If the opponent was in existence at the void interpretation stage or above, then what he feared the most now was, the opponent was an enemy and not a friend, and the opponent's strength was even stronger than Han Xuanai. Xuanai, you noticed as well? Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian noticed that Han Xuanai's face had gone grim, and her eyes even emitted an indescribable flowing light, and he couldn't help but ask. Han Xuanai nodded. Xuanai, could it be that he's even stronger than you? Han Xuanai's extremely unsightly expression caused Duan Lingtian's heart to jerk, and he realized that the matter wasn't so simple. That person's strength might even surpass Xuanai. The facts proved that Duan Lingtian's guess was correct. Han Xuanai nodded once more. Who the heck is it? Duan Lingtian quickly noticed that Han Xuanai's gaze was currently looking towards the sky above the three-eyed flame tiger. Instantly, Duan Lingtian looked over as well. In the sky above the area where the three-eyed flame tiger was, the clouds and mist dispersed along with the wind, and an emaciated figure appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. The emaciated figure stood there like a dry corpse, and it caused one's hair to stand on end. What a terrifying figure. Duan Lingtian noticed that the spiritual force he stretched out with the intention of probing the emaciated figure hadn't even approached the surroundings of the emaciated figure when it was crushed by a shapeless force. A large area around the emaciated figure seemed to possess something similar to an aura, and it completely resisted Duan Lingtian's spiritual force. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian clearly saw the appearance of the emaciated figure. This was an old woman in azure clothes. Her emaciated cheeks had a calm expression, and her eyes were dim and lusterless, causing one to be unable to discern whether she was happy or angry. She stood there as if she was an ancient statue. Duan Lingtian gasped. This person is probably not only at the void interpretation stage. Her strength might even be at the void transformation stage. Even though Duan Lingtian's spiritual force was unable to approach this azure-clothed old woman, he had inherited the lifetime's memories and experience of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, so he could sense traces of the aura of an existence at the void transformation stage or above from the azure-clothed old woman. The aura was faint, but Duan Lingtian still sensed it. This feeling was very strange, and it came from the lifetime's experience of the reincarnation Emperor Wu. Of course, Duan Lingtian didn't dare to be 100% sure. Xuanai, find an opportunity to leave first. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and sent a voice transmission to Han Xuanai. Currently, he didn't know why this old woman would appear here and what her intentions were, but just in case he still hoped that Han Xuanai could leave first. If this old woman was really in existence at the void transformation stage or above, then Han Xuanai and he would definitely die if she was hostile. A powerhouse at the void transformation stage or above was far from what a void interpretation stage martial artist could compare to. Even though Han Xuanai was strong, she was still nothing in front of a powerhouse at the void transformation stage or above. As someone who had merged with the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu's 2 lifetimes, Duan Lingtian knew this very well. But even so, he still hoped to fight for a chance for Han Xuanai to survive. Brother Lingtian, what are you saying? At this moment, Han Xuanai returned to her senses, and after hearing what Duan Lingtian said, she couldn't help but be stunned. Xuanai, we still don't know her intentions. But she's very dangerous. How about this, you leave first and find a remote place to hide. I'll see if I can lure her away. Duan Lingtian said again. Now Han Xuanai finally understood what was going on. Brother Lingtian. Han Xuanai smiled bitterly. She doesn't have any hostility towards us, so you don't have to be like this. Doesn't have any hostility? Hearing what Han Xuanai said, Duan Lingtian's tensed nerves trembled, and he had a puzzled expression. Xuanai, what do you mean by this? Brother Lingtian, she's the Qingnu I mentioned to you before. Han Xuanai said. Qingnu? She's Qingnu? Duan Lingtian's tensed nerves instantly relaxed, and his face was filled with astonishment. The name Qingnu was not unfamiliar to him at all. Back then, Han Xuanai had mentioned this name many times. Qingnu was someone by Han Xuanai's side, and could even be considered as a protective umbrella that followed by Han Xuanai's side. Her strength was even stronger than Han Xuanai's. Moreover, according to what Han Xuanai said, The two little pythons were able to achieve what they had today because of Qing Nu's contribution. So she's Qing Nu, Duan Lingtian sighed, then looked at Han Xuanai and smiled bitterly. Then why were you like that earlier? Han Xuanai's appearance earlier was precisely the source of Duan Lingtian's confusion from his concern. Han Xuanai lowered her head as she looked at the azure-clothed old woman in the distance, and she said dejectedly, Brother Lingtian, Qing Nu's arrival means that I can't continue to stay in the Darkhan dynasty. I want to go home. Duan Lingtian came to a sudden understanding. So it was because of this. If you want to continue playing outside, then can't you discuss it with her? Duan Lingtian suggested. Chapter 631. At this moment, Duan Lingtian could feel the helplessness in Han Xuanai's tone. However, he still nodded solemnly in response to Han Xuanai's words. Don't worry, Xuanai. I'll definitely let you see a brand new me the next time we meet. Xuanai nodded. The gloominess on her face was swept away, and she regained her optimistic smile. However, she soon sighed again and looked at Duan Lingtian. She wanted to say something but hesitated. Brother Lingtian, little black and little white. At this moment, how could Duan Lingtian not understand the meaning of Han Xuanai's words? His gaze fell on the two little pythons in Han Xuanai's hands, and he was somewhat reluctant to part with them. Little Black and Little White had been with him since birth. Although they had left for a few years, their relationship with him was still very deep. And Duan Lingtian had always treated them as family. Hiss hiss, the two little pythons seemed to have realized something. They flicked their tongues in annoyance and kept swinging their tails. The next moment, swoosh, swoosh. Two bolts of lightning, one black and one white, flashed out from Han Xuanai's hands, streaked across the sky, and coiled around Duan Lingtian's hands. Brother, I don't want to leave. I want to stay by your side. Brother, I don't want to leave with Sister Xuanai. I want to follow you. I miss Sister Kerr and Li Fei. The two little pythons' voice transmissions entered Duan Lingtian's ears in a timely manner. At this moment, Duan Lingtian only felt warmth in his heart. Originally, the two little pythons had left him for many years, and there was an invisible distance between them. At least that was the case on Duan Lingtian's side. But now, the two little pythons' actions made Duan Lingtian feel warmth, and that trace of distance in his heart disappeared without a trace. Sister Xuanai, I want to stay by brother's side. Sister Xuanai, I don't want to leave brother again. Han Xuanai, who was standing far away, had a complicated look in her eyes when she heard the voice transmissions from the two little pythons. In the past few years, although she had been with the two little pythons day and night, the hearts of the two little pythons were obviously not on her side. This made her feel both helpless and bitter. Brother Lingtian. Han Xuanai looked at Duan Lingtian and sighed. Since Little Black and Little White want to stay by your side, I won't take them with me this time. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to say something, Duan Lingtian suddenly opened his mouth. Whoosh! It was as if a gust of wind blew past. The green-robed old woman who had been standing in the distance suddenly appeared behind Han Xuanai. She looked at Duan Lingtian and said in a hoarse voice, These two little fellows are descendants of mutated holy beasts. In terms of natural talent, they aren't the slightest bit inferior to the jade-eyed heavenly mouse on your shoulder. The green-robed old woman was precisely Qing Nu, who was by Han Xuanai's side, and she was currently looking at the little gold mouse on Duan Lingtian's shoulder as she spoke slowly. Descendants of mutated holy beasts? Duan Lingtian looked at Little Black and Little White with an astounded expression. He was extremely clear about Little Black and Little White's background. They were the children of two ferocious beast pythons. How could they possibly be related to a holy beast? Senior, have you made a mistake? When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian looked at Qing Nu and asked. At the same time, he spoke of the origins of the two little fellows one by one. Descendants of two ferocious beast pythons? Qing Nu hadn't said anything when Han Xuanai had already exclaimed in shock. Brother Lingtian, you said Little Black and Little White are the children of two ordinary ferocious beasts? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. At that time, it was I who personally brought them back home before they were hatched. Moreover, their appearance after they were born had once puzzled me. Because they didn't look like their mother, nor did they look like their father. This isn't difficult to understand. Qing Nu spoke once more and her voice was still hoarse. Instantly, the gazes of Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai were successfully attracted by Qing Nu. Qing Nu continued. The so-called mutated holy beast descendants are different from ordinary holy beast descendants. The descendants of ordinary sacred beasts such as this jade-eyed heavenly mouse could inherit the bloodline inheritance of the jade-eyed heavenly mouse clan through its mother. However, the descendants of mutated sacred beasts could rarely inherit the bloodline inheritance. It was more random. Just like these two little fellows. Duan Ling Tian seemed to be lost in thought when he heard what Qing Nu said. These things weren't present in the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu. Speak frankly if you have something to say. In the end, Duan Ling Tian returned to his senses and looked at Qing Nu. He was able to discern. What Qing Nu said earlier was intentional, and she was obviously paving the way for something. Qing Nu's originally dim eyes abruptly lit up as she glanced deeply at Duan Ling Tian and said, "No matter if it's a mutated holy beast descendant or an ordinary holy beast descendant, their potential is extremely enormous. If you're doing it for their own good, then you should give them a better future and allow them to become demon emperors in the shortest amount of time." Hiss hiss. As soon as Qing Nu finished speaking, the two little pythons that coiled around Duan Ling Tian's hand became restless and ceaselessly flicked their tongues. Obviously they heard what Qing Nu said and were displeased. "Didn't you say so much because you want us to go with you? I won't go with you. I want to follow Big Brother Ling Tian." The little gold mouse stood on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder as she bared her fangs and brandished her claws at Qing Nu. "Little fellow, you're smart. Being able to speak in the human tongue at the void initiation stage has completely broken the common sense of ordinary demon beasts. Looks like I've still underestimated you." Qing Nu looked at the little gold mouse and a slightly surprised expression appeared on her face. Obviously, she was shocked by the little gold mouse's sudden words. Squeak squeak, the little gold mouse raised her head complacently and cried out twice when she heard Qing Nu. At the same time, the little gold mouse looked at the two little pythons. "You two idiots that don't know how to speak, both of you? Are you going to follow Big Brother Ling Tian like before, or continue following Big Sister Xuanai and this old woman?" "Old woman?" The little gold mouse's words caused the corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth to be unable to refrain from twitching. Little Gold called this expert that's suspected to be at the void transformation stage an old woman. If it was another existence like this, Duan Ling Tian would have been burning with anxiety since long ago. Now he was able to maintain his composure. After all, this existence that's suspected to be at the void transformation stage or above before him was someone by Xuanai's side. He believed that Xuanai wouldn't allow her to act rashly. In next to no time Duan Ling Tian saw it again. Qing Nu wasn't angered in the slightest by the little gold mouse's rude words, and her expression was calm like an ancient well without the slightest ripple. Perhaps in Qing Nu's eyes the little gold mouse was only a child, and a child's words carried no harm, so she didn't have to fuss about it. Hiss hiss, the little gold mouse's words didn't enrage Qing Nu, but instead enraged the two little pythons, causing the two little pythons to glare angrily at the little gold mouse. In next to no time they made their stand clear. They followed Duan Ling Tian. "Of course it's fine if you insist on keeping them by your side," Qing Nu added. Duan Ling Tian glanced indifferently at Qing Nu. "I wonder what's the better future you speak of?" Qing Nu didn't hesitate and said directly, "Let go and allow them to return to their wild nature. Demon beasts are only able to stimulate their entire potential and break through their limits under the most adverse circumstances. With their natural talent, so long as they experience sufficient tempering, it isn't impossible for them to transform into true saint beasts." Transform into true saint beasts? Duan Ling Tian's heart trembled. Even though he didn't know what the saint beasts Qing Nu spoke of were, as there was no record of them in the memories of Samsara Emperor Wu. But since the jade-eyed heavenly mouse was only a descendant of a saint beast, the terror of a true saint beast could be seen from this. The descendants of saint beasts were all demon emperors when they matured to the limit. Then what about true saint beasts? It was unimaginable. "You have a way to help them?" Duan Ling Tian looked at Qing Nu and asked with a low voice. Even though he was extremely reluctant to part with the three little fellows. But if the three little fellows were really able to have a better future, then he would absolutely not ask the three little fellows to stay by his side. He took the three little fellows to be his family, so he naturally hoped that the three little fellows would be able to have the best future. Duan Ling Tian's concern for the three little fellows was no different than a father's concern for his child. It was all for the sake of the latter. "I know of a place that's suitable for them, but the time required is slightly long," Qing Nu said, "at least 7 or 8 years and at most 10 or 20 years. 7 or 8 years. 10 or 20 years. Duan Ling Tian's face went slightly pale, as he never expected that it would take so long. Qing Nu Han Xuanai, who'd been silent all along, finally spoke, and her expression was extremely heavy. You want to send little gold, little black, and little white to that place? You're crazy. As she finished speaking, Han Xuanai was like a she-wolf protecting her cubs. They're still young, they're only children. Duan Lingtian was stunned. After knowing Xuanai for so long, it was still the first time he'd seen Xuanai lose her composure like this. He could guess that the vile environment Qing Nu spoke of was an extremely terrifying place. At least, even a void interpretation stage martial artist like Han Xuanai would go pale when talking about it. Young Mississippi, Qing Nu sighed. Even though they're young, they possess extraordinary bloodlines that are far from what ordinary demon beasts can compare to. You ought to know that if they're able to come out from there, they'll surely be able to obtain extremely great benefits and even have a profound influence. Han Xuanai went silent for a moment when she heard this. She naturally knew that what Qing Nu said was true. Not to mention others, just Qing Nu was an existence that had once come out from that place. Whereas the current Qing Nu's cultivation had long since far exceeded the limits of what her natural talent could attain. It could be said that Qing Nu had been changed precisely by that place. That place was hell to 90% or more of the demon beasts that entered it. But to the remaining less than 10% of the demon beasts, it was heaven. Heaven, hell, a fine line between life and death, and one would become a true expert. Xuanai, is that place really so good? Duan Lingtian looked at Han Xuanai as he asked. Big brother Lingtian. Han Xuanai laughed bitterly. I can only say, the demon beasts that enter that place can be said to have a slim chance of surviving. Whereas those that are able to survive are all existences with peerless natural talent and extraordinary strength. That place is indeed the best touchstone for demon beast, but the risks within it can't be underestimated. Chapter 632. Hiss. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but gasp when he heard Han Xuanai. Even though I hope the future of little gold, little black, and little white is even better. But if I have to risk their lives, then I'd rather be selfish and keep them by my side and not let them leave. Duan Lingtian looked at Qing Nu as he spoke, and his voice wasn't loud, yet it was clear and resounding. From this, one could see Duan Lingtian's determination that even 10 cows would not be able to pull him back. Presently, Duan Lingtian was like a responsible father. If the child wanted to go out and adventure, then he wouldn't stop it. But if the child had a slim chance of survival, then he would surely do his best to keep the child behind. In the world, so long as it was apparent, practically all of them would rather their child live a mediocre life than allow any mishap to befall their child. This was what a qualified parent was like. You've made up your mind? As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Qing Nu asked after a short while. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded affirmatively, and there was no room for discussion. Could it be that you don't want to wait for them to become stronger so they can help you better? With their natural talent, no matter how great the test of danger they face is, at least one or two of them will be able to survive in the end. Even if only one of them survives, its help to you is something that can't be measured by anything else. Qing Nu looked at Duan Lingtian as she spoke slowly, and her tone was filled with temptation. Qing Nu's words were extremely simple. If the little gold mouse and 2 little pythons entered that place, then even if only one of them could survive in the end, Duan Lingtian would have profited. As soon as Qing Nu finished speaking, Duan Lingtian's expression went completely grim, and he said furiously, the lives of little gold, little black, and little white are priceless in my eyes, and there's nothing that can replace them. So you don't have to speak nonsense in front of me. No matter what, I won't allow them to take a risk. Duan Lingtian's tone was resolute and decisive, and there was no room for discussion. If it wasn't for the azure-clothed old woman before him being someone by Xuanai's side, and if it wasn't for the old woman's strength being stronger than him, he'd have directly given her a slap long ago. But when Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he was stunned, because he saw Qing Nu. Little fellows, do you see that? For the sake of your safety, he would rather lose the assistance from you. He chose to do this for the sake of all of you. Could it be that all of you don't want to be able to help him in the future? With his fortune, if all of you continue to stay by his side, then with his continue to stay by his side, continue to stay by his side you, with his fortune, he. With his fortune. With his, with his tut. At that time you will become a burden to him and he will have to protect you. Is this what you want to see? Qing speak gold speak. Hiss hiss. The 2 little pythons that coiled around Duan Lingtian's hand instantly became excited, and they hurriedly shook their little heads. Squeak. After the little gold mouse let out a sharp cry, it said with a childish voice, Granny, I don't want Big Brother Ling Tian to protect me. I want to protect Big Brother Ling Tian myself. Do you have the strength? Qing Nu laughed with ridicule and said with disdain, "Little fellow, it's not that I'm looking down on you, but you're not a match for him now." When the little gold mouse heard this, it, who was originally extremely excited, drooped its little head and became dejected. Enough. Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai shouted out furiously at almost the exact same time. Han Xuanai had a gloomy expression as she spoke first. Qing Nu, I know you have high hopes for Little Black and Little White, but that place is truly too dangerous. I don't approve of their going as well. Qing Nu sighed and didn't say anything further. The reason she persisted was because she didn't have any ill intent. She just didn't want these three little fellows with potential to be covered in dust. As a demon that had experienced life and death in that place, she was sure. With the potential of these three little fellows, if they were able to come out alive from that place, they would surely soar into the sky. But since her young miss had spoken, it was naturally not good for her to persist. Big brother, I want to go to that place with her. Qing Nu had calmed down, but the little gold mouse was restless, and it spoke to Duan Ling Tian with a childish voice. Its tone was firm and resolute. Little gold, don't cause trouble. Duan Ling Tian glared angrily at the little gold mouse. Big brother, I'm not causing trouble. I've already discussed it with Little Black and Little White. We're going to that place. Once we come out from there, we'll come back to look for Big Brother. At that time, we'll be able to help Big Brother even better. The little gold mouse continued speaking with a childish voice. Discussed it? With Little Black and Little White? Wasn't Little Gold always on bad terms with them? For a time, Duan Ling Tian was slightly bewildered. When these three little fellows were together, it was truly a headache. There's no need. Duan Ling Tian shook his head, and he was just unwilling to allow the three little fellows to take the risk. But the stubbornness of the three little fellows had completely exceeded his imagination, and they were unwilling to stay behind no matter what. In the end, Duan Ling Tian was completely at his wits' end. At the same time, his heart was filled with dissatisfaction towards Qing Nu. If it wasn't for this old fellow constantly encouraging the three little fellows, how could the three little fellows have changed their minds? Duan Ling Tian gnashed his teeth with hatred towards Qing Nu. If anything happens to the three little fellows in the future, then even if she's someone by Xuanai's side, I'll still kill her. At that time, don't blame me for not knowing how to respect the elderly. Duan Ling Tian swore in his heart. Duan Ling Tian didn't doubt in the slightest that he would be able to possess a strength that surpassed Qing Nu in the future. Putting aside his outstanding innate talent and the concept fragment and profundity fragment in his hands, he was still in possession of the profundity fragment. Even the great treasure vault left behind by the Samsara Emperor Wu in the foreign lands and the rebirth pills were sufficient to allow him to possess a cultivation speed that far exceeded an ordinary person. Swoosh! A gust of wind whistling sounded out, and the little gold mouse had left Duan Ling Tian's shoulder to arrive on Han Xuanai's shoulder. Swish! Swish! The two little pythons weren't willing to fall behind and returned to Han Xuanai's wrist. Big brother Ling Tian, don't worry, I'll take good care of Little Gold, Little Black and Little White. Since it had already come to this, Han Xuanai didn't know what to say, and could only continue to console Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian nodded and was slightly dispirited. Big brother Ling Tian will be leaving first. Han Xuanai and the three little fellows bid their farewells to Duan Ling Tian. Not only that, Han Xuanai even glanced at the three-eyed flame tiger before leaving. Big guy, obediently send Big brother Ling Tian back to the Darkhan dynasty's capital. If I find out that you're disobedient, I'll surely freeze you into a popsicle. Oh. The three-eyed flame tiger's body lightly trembled when it heard Han Xuanai's threat. But if one looked carefully, one would be able to notice that in the depths of the three-eyed flame tiger's gaze, there was a faint sheen of excitement mixed within. I can finally get rid of this little she-devil. The three-eyed flame tiger roared excitedly in its heart, and it was overjoyed from excitement. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian ascended onto the back of the three-eyed flame tiger and sent off Han Xuanai and Qing Nu with his gaze. The two of them even brought along the three little fellows. Little Gold, Little Black, Little White. Nothing must happen to all of you. Duan Ling Tian silently said in his heart when he saw Han Xuanai's figure vanish before his eyes. Brr. Instantly, the scene before Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed, and he was dragged along by the three-eyed flame tiger to flash out towards the direction of the capital. All along the way, the three-eyed flame tiger roared excitedly without end, causing Duan Ling Tian to be speechless. Looks like this big fellow was really bullied by Han Shuanai earlier to the point it had a belly full of pent-up anger. Now that Han Shuanai had left, that pent-up anger had completely erupted. Duan Lingtian shook his head and paid no further attention to the three-eyed flame tiger before directly sitting down to cultivate 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique Earth Dragon Form. Not long after, Duan Lingtian had already immersed his entire body and mind into cultivating, and he seemed to have forgotten the time. He only knew how to ceaselessly cultivate. The origin energy within his body seemed to have transformed into a vast river that ceaselessly flowed through the meridians within Duan Lingtian's body. Duan Lingtian's cultivation was increasing at every moment. The three-eyed flame tiger quickly sent Duan Lingtian back to the Darkhan dynasty's capital. Whereas Duan Lingtian had returned to the estate the Darkstone Empire had purchased in the Darkhan dynasty's capital. Duan Lingtian. Not long after he entered the estate, Duan Lingtian heard someone call out to him from behind. When he turned around, he saw the person that called out to him with a single glance. Su Li? You've gone out as well? The person that called out to Duan Lingtian was none other than Su Li. At this moment, Su Li had obviously just returned from outside. I just went out for a walk. Su Li lightly smiled. Duan Lingtian nodded, and then he thought in his heart. I've been out for a few months this time. I wonder what changes Su Li's cultivation has undergone. When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian's spiritual force silently stretched out to envelop Su Li's body. It detected Su Li's current cultivation at the first possible moment. How could this be possible? At practically the instant his spiritual force detected Su Li's cultivation, Duan Lingtian's pupils constricted abruptly, and his heart was filled with shock. Heavens, what have I detected? Su Li is actually at the 4th level of the Void Initiation stage as well. This was the source of Duan Lingtian's shock. Su Li's current cultivation was actually no different than his. He was extremely clear in his heart about the fortuitous encounters Su Li obtained to possess this cultivation. But how did Su Li advance so quickly? Could it be a spirit fruit? If it's really a spirit fruit, then it's understandable. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. But it can be seen from this that the master behind Su Li isn't simple at all. What a joke. Would a person that was able to use a spirit fruit to advance Su Li's cultivation to such an extent be an ordinary person? Duan Lingtian, you've left for a slightly long time this time. Did you obtain any special gains? Su Li asked. I didn't obtain any special gains, and I only obtained some comprehension in terms of concept. Duan Lingtian smiled modestly. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian and Su Li walked together and returned to their own courtyards. After Duan Lingtian returned to his room, he couldn't help but sigh when he felt the cold atmosphere. All of them have left. Only I remain. Chapter 633. I wonder how Kerr and Little Fei are now. But since they've entered a power in the foreign lands and obtained the favor of the higher-ups of the powers, their cultivations have surely advanced by leaps and bounds. Guisu, their strengths might have already far surpassed me now. Unknowingly, Duan Lingtian had thought of his 2 fiancées. In the blink of an eye, he hadn't seen his 2 fiancées for a few years. He missed them greatly in his heart. Kerr, Little Fei. Wait for me, I'll come look for the both of you very soon. Duan Lingtian decided in his heart. At the same time, Duan Lingtian seemed as if he'd suddenly taken stimulants, and he shuddered before instantly sitting up from the bed. He held a mid-grade origin stone and wind concept fragment in his hand before closing his eyes and starting to cultivate 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique Earth Dragon Form. Vast origin energy surged within Duan Lingtian's body and filled the meridians throughout his body before finally converging together and gushing into his Dantian. No matter what, I must become eminent in the Dynasty Martial Competition and obtain the qualifications to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. Only by becoming eminent in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties would I have the chance to join a formidable power in the foreign lands. Only by joining a formidable power in the foreign lands would I be able to possess a trump card to protect myself in the foreign lands. With my current strength, if I were to walk out of the foreign lands by myself, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to walk far before being killed. Only by leaving the foreign lands would I be able to look for Kerr and Little Fei, and only then would I be able to retrieve the great treasure left behind by the Emperor Wu during his second lifetime. Duan Lingtian's thoughts spun abruptly as he drew a perfect blueprint for his future. All of this was the motivation that ceaselessly pushed him forward. After he returned from the Sword Monarch's treasure, Duan Ling Tian stayed in his courtyard to cultivate and didn't leave. Over 2 months later. On the bed in his room, Duan Ling Tian, who sat cross-legged there, had an instantly tense expression, and he seemed to have encountered something. At the same time, the origin energy in his body surged out like waves of tempestuous waves. Whoosh! The tempestuous waves swept out and charged towards the final bottleneck between the 4th level of the Void Initiation Stage and the 5th level of the Void Initiation Stage. Bang! A light sound rang out as Duan Lingtian's origin energy smoothly broke through the bottleneck, and the origin energy in his entire body underwent a transformation along with it. 5th level of the Void Initiation Stage. Duan Ling Tian abruptly opened his eyes, and there was a slight excitement on his face. His cultivation had finally broken through smoothly to the 5th level of the Void Initiation Stage. If others were to find out that Duan Ling Tian had just broken through to the 4th level of the Void Initiation Stage 3 months ago and had broken through to the 5th level of the Void Initiation Stage now, moreover, he hadn't consumed any spirit fruits, their jaws would probably be shocked off. Only Duan Ling Tian was not surprised. With my natural talent that was transformed from the 10,000-year stalactite milk and coupled with the assistance of origin stones, spending 3 months of time to advance from the 4th level of the Void Initiation Stage to the 5th level of the Void Initiation Stage is nothing. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. Presently, only half a year remains before the Dynasty Martial competition begins. If nothing unexpected happens, I ought to be able to break through to the 6th level of the Void Initiation Stage in half a year. It's practically impossible to break through to the 7th level of the Void Initiation Stage. This was something Duan Ling Tian could be sure of. Even though his natural talent was strong and he possessed many origin stones, it was practically impossible for him to break through to the 7th level of the Void Initiation Stage in such a short period of time. 6th level of the Void Initiation Stage. Perhaps I'll be able to suppress Mo Xian and reign supreme amongst the group of young geniuses of the Darkstone Empire. But the young geniuses of an empire are utterly nothing in the Darkhan Dynasty's Dynasty Martial competition. Not to mention the young geniuses of a few tens of empires besides the Darkstone Empire that will be coming. Even the outstanding young geniuses of the Darkhan Dynasty are probably not few in number. For a time, Duan Ling Tian felt extremely great pressure. It's difficult to become eminent in the Dynasty Martial competition at the 6th level of the Void Initiation Stage. If it's the 7th level of the Void Initiation Stage, I'm afraid I still have a chance. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart, and his gaze flickered. It's extremely difficult to break through to the 7th level of the Void Initiation Stage in half a year. But it isn't impossible. Duan Ling Tian's thoughts spun abruptly. There are 2 ways. The first is to find the ageless root and refine the rebirth pill. The second is to obtain a spirit fruit used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists, and it can't be a spirit void fruit. Duan Ling Tian had already consumed a spirit void fruit once in the past, and if he consumed it once more, the medicinal effect would be greatly reduced and wouldn't be of much help to him. The ageless root. It's probably difficult to find in a short period of time. Perhaps I have a chance with a spirit fruit used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists. After a short moment, Duan Ling Tian thought of many things, and the train of thought in his mind became clear. But it's not a simple matter to obtain a spirit fruit used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists. Presently, the Dynasty Martial competition is just around the corner. Even if a spirit fruit used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists appeared in the Darkhan Dynasty, it would probably have already been completely swept away. When he thought up to here, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be slightly dejected. Moreover, I utterly don't have the means to find a spirit fruit used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists. I almost forgot about him. As Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself, he shuddered and regained his senses. He'd thought of a person. After Duan Ling Tian thought of that person, he didn't hesitate to directly leave the courtyard and leave the Darkstone Empire's estate in the Darkhan Dynasty's capital. Not long after, an enormous being soared into the sky near the Darkhan Dynasty's capital. Big fellow, I'll be troubling you. Duan Ling Tian stood on the three-eyed flame tiger as he spoke with a light smile. Roar! The three-eyed flame tiger roared in a low voice. Although it was slightly unhappy, it didn't dare show it. Who knew if the fellow on its back would tell on it to the little she-devil? If the little she-devil were to know that it had neglected this fellow, then wouldn't the little she-devil freeze it into a popsicle? With the three-eyed flame tiger's speed, it wasn't long before Duan Ling Tian once again arrived at Milky Way City. After entering Milky Way City, Duan Ling Tian directly went to the treasure-gathering pavilion. Brother Ling Tian, You're so anxious to find me, is there something you need? The Milky Way City's treasure-gathering pavilion's pavilion master, Xiang Ying, had a bewildered expression as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Pavilion Master Xiang. Duan Lingtian went straight to the point and spoke of the reason for his visit. I came this time because I want you to take care of something for me. I want a spirit fruit used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists. Besides the spirit Void Fruit Pavilion Master Xiang gave me the other day, any other spirit fruit is fine. Xiang Ying was slightly surprised when he heard Duan Lingtian. Brother Lingtian, someone by your side is participating in the Dynasty Martial Competition? The Darkhan Dynasty's Dynasty Martial Competition was half a year from now. Presently, practically everyone in the Darkhan Dynasty was discussing this grand event. At the same time, there were already many powers throughout the Darkhan Dynasty that had spread the word that they were willing to pay an extremely high price to exchange for spirit fruits used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists. Practically all these powers had young geniuses that were preparing to participate in the Darkhan Dynasty's Dynasty Martial Competition. Every member of every power hoped that the young geniuses of their powers would be able to become eminent in the Dynasty Martial Competition and win the qualifications to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. So, they spared no expense to wantonly gather spirit fruits used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists. I'll participate myself. Duan Lingtian didn't conceal it and spoke directly. Participate yourself? Xiang Ying was stunned. When Duan Lingtian came to ask about spirit fruits used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists, his reaction at the first possible moment was that someone by Duan Lingtian's side wanted to participate in the Dynasty Martial Competition, whereas Duan Lingtian was looking for spirit fruits for that person. It wasn't that he didn't think that Duan Lingtian himself intended to participate in the Dynasty Martial Competition, but Duan Lingtian was truly too young. Moreover, he'd only heard 2 months ago that Duan Lingtian was only a 4th-level Void Initiation Stage martial artist. With Duan Lingtian's age, being able to possess such a cultivation meant that in terms of natural talent, it was already sufficient to shock others. But if it was just this little bit of cultivation, it was practically impossible for Duan Lingtian to become eminent in the Dynasty Martial Competition and obtain the qualifications to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. It was precisely because of this that he didn't think that Duan Lingtian himself wanted to participate in the Dynasty Martial Competition. Yes. Duan Lingtian wasn't impatient when faced with Xiang Ying's repeated questions, and he nodded. Xiang Ying returned to his senses and laughed bitterly. Brother Lingtian, I can only say that I'll try my best. The main reason is that the Dynasty Martial Competition is about to arrive, and not only are the various powers of the Darkhan Dynasty searching for spirit fruits used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists, even the various empires are paying attention to the news of spirit fruits used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists. Now, so long as spirit fruits used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists appear, it utterly wouldn't be long before it would be directly bought at a high price. As he finished speaking, Xiang Ying shook his head and sighed. As the pavilion master of the treasure-gathering pavilion, he was clearly aware of how many people had come to the treasure-gathering pavilion to ask about spirit fruits used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists in the recent period of time. So he knew. At this moment, the spirit fruits that were used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists were extremely rare and precious. Duan Lingtian nodded. He wasn't surprised by this. Then I'll have to trouble Pavilion Master Xiang to help me pay attention. If Pavilion Master Xiang is able to obtain spirit fruits used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists besides the Spirit Void Fruit, then I can ask Master to lend you a Grade 3 spirit weapon for Pavilion Master Xiang to study properly. Duan Lingtian looked at Xiang Ying and spoke slowly. As he finished speaking, there was no lack of temptation in his voice. Whereas this temptation was undoubtedly enormous to a Grade 4 weapons craftsman like Xiang Ying. Brother Lingtian, is this true? Xiang Ying looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a serious expression. At the same time, his breathing became hurried, and his chest rose and fell continuously like a bellows that didn't stop for a long time. Of course it's true. Duan Lingtian nodded. Don't worry, Brother Lingtian. During this period of time, I'll surely do my best to search for spirit fruits used by Void Initiation Stage martial artists and the Ageless Root for you. Xiang Ying vowed solemnly. If Pavilion Master Xiang is able to help me find the Ageless Root, then I can promise you on behalf of my master to refine a Grade 3 spirit weapon for you. Of course, you have to prepare the materials yourself. Duan Lingtian continued to add fuel to the fire. Chapter 634. Grade 3 Spirit Weapon? That was something that Xiang Ying dreamt of obtaining. As a Grade 4 weapons craftsman, his greatest dream was to be able to advance a step further in the Tao of weapons refinement and become a Grade 3 weapons craftsman. But even though Xiang Ying always had this dream, he didn't have the slightest confidence in realizing it. Because he'd seen with his own two eyes that many Grade 4 weapons craftsmen hadn't touched the threshold to become a Grade 3 weapons craftsman until the moment they died of old age. Of course, Xiang Ying knew that the reason these weapons craftsmen were like this was mostly because they hadn't come into contact with a Grade 3 spirit weapon. A Grade 3 weapons craftsman hadn't appeared in the Darkhan dynasty for a few thousands of years. On the other hand, the only Grade 3 spirit weapon in the Darkhan dynasty that was possessed by the Darkhan dynasty's imperial family was also the only Grade 3 spirit weapon that was known to all in the Darkhan dynasty. But this Grade 3 spirit weapon was taken to be a precious treasure by the Darkhan dynasty's imperial family, and no matter who it was, they were unable to borrow it. Xiang Ying had once negotiated with the Darkhan dynasty's imperial family many times with the intention of seeing the Grade 3 spirit weapon's elegance, but he was refused every single time without exception. It was precisely because of this that it set off the rarity and preciousness of a Grade 3 spirit weapon. Yet now, when he heard he had a chance to obtain a Grade 3 spirit weapon, Xiang Ying was completely unable to sit still. "Brother Ling Tian, I'll go instruct my subordinates right now." Under Duan Lingtian's slightly astounded gaze, Xiang Ying seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind that instantly vanished before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Not long after, Xiang Ying returned once more. "Brother Ling Tian, if there's news of the spirit fruit and ageless root you require, how should I go find you? Since you intend to participate in the dynasty martial competition, I presume you ought to be heading to our Darkhan dynasty's capital, right?" Xiang Ying asked. Meanwhile, Xiang Ying's tone became hurried, as if he'd already found the thing Duan Lingtian required. "You can go directly to the capital. I usually stay at the estate the Darkstone Empire purchased in the capital. That estate is called the Darkstone Estate." Duan Lingtian said to Xiang Ying. "All right. Darkstone Estate, I'll remember it." Xiang Ying nodded. "Since that's the case, I'll take my leave first. Pavilion Master Xiang will meet again. I'll wait for your good news." After bidding farewell to Xiang Ying, Duan Lingtian left the Jubao Pavilion and left Han River City. He did not go anywhere else but directly returned to the Darkhan dynasty's capital. "Now, with Pavilion Master Xiang helping me, even if I'm unable to find the ageless root for the time being, I ought to be able to have some leads on the spirit fruit used by Void Initiation stage martial artists. I only hope that he'll be able to help me find it as soon as possible." Duan Lingtian breathed a sigh of relief. So long as he was able to break through to the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage before the Dynasty Martial Competition, he had the confidence to become eminent in the Dynasty Martial Competition and obtain the qualifications to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. Once again returning to the capital, Duan Lingtian was in no hurry to return. Feng Clan. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat as a graceful figure appeared in his mind. This figure wore a fiery red robe and danced gracefully as if she had turned into a burning flame. "Tianwu?" Duan Lingtian gradually closed his eyes as slight recollection appeared on his face. Feng Tianwu. The young woman he met in Phoenix Nest City when he left the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom for the first time and arrived at the Darkstone Empire. He still remembered. Tianwu possessed the fire spirit body, and if she was unable to deal with it before the age of 30, then her body would explode and she would die at the age of 30. Now, since I've arrived at the Darkhan dynasty's capital, I ought to pay a visit to the Feng clan city governor Feng and take a look at Tianwu. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat as he had a plan. "Big brother, do you know how to get to the Feng clan?" Duan Lingtian swiftly stopped a passerby on the street and asked politely with a light smile on his face. "I don't." The passerby waved his hand impatiently before going around Duan Lingtian and leaving with large strides. Duan Lingtian could only look at the next passerby that passed by. "Big brother, do you know where the Feng clan is?" This time, Duan Lingtian withdrew a 1,000 gold note and waved it before the passerby. "I know. Of course I know." The passerby's eyes lit up when he saw the gold note, and he spoke hurriedly and excitedly. Meanwhile, the passerby that went around Duan Lingtian and walked in front heard the words of the passerby behind him as well. As he turned around, he secretly exclaimed, "There's still someone that's so willing to help others these days? It's truly rare." But when he turned around and saw the violet-clothed young man that asked him the question earlier had actually withdrawn a 1,000 gold note and passed it over to another passerby. He was completely dumbstruck. I only answered a question and obtained a 1,000 gold note? For a time he was extremely regretful and hated himself for being too impatient and actually missing this rare opportunity. He swore in his heart. If someone asked for directions in the future, he would surely not be impatient and would patiently answer the person that asked for directions. All this was something that Duan Lingtian would never know. Presently, after he found out the location of the Feng clan estate that the Feng clan resided in, he directly walked over. Not long after, Duan Lingtian stood before the door of a vast estate. This vast estate was dazzling and magnificent, and it looked to not be the slightest bit inferior to the imperial palace. It could be seen from this that the power this estate represented wasn't simple in the territory of the Darkhan dynasty. This Feng clan is really extraordinary. Amir Estate's door is comparable to the city gate of the Darkstone Empire's imperial city. As he looked at the door before him, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be slightly surprised. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian's gaze descended onto the enormous plaque on the door of the estate. On it, 3 large words were written in flamboyant calligraphy. Feng clan. That Feng character. Suddenly, seeming to have sensed something, Duan Lingtian's burning gaze stared at the Feng character on the plaque. On this Feng character, Duan Lingtian clearly sensed the aura of an inscription formation. When Duan Lingtian's spiritual force fused into it. Bang! At this moment, Duan Lingtian felt a wave of invisible energy surging toward him. Subsequently, his mind became clear. At the same time, a shocking scene appeared before his eyes. In the scene, an exceedingly enormous flying beast floated in the sky, and its entire body emitted an extremely beautiful crimson-red sheen. The body of the flying beast blazed with boundless flames, and it was like a happy fire spirit. Phoenix. Even though Duan Lingtian had never seen a flying beast like this in the past, this flying beast was similar to a phoenix. However, this type of flying demon beast was slightly similar to the legendary divine beast, the phoenix, so it wasn't difficult for Duan Lingtian to link the two together. Most importantly, this scene was in the form of an inscription formation, and it existed within the word Feng on the plaque of the Feng clan estate's entrance. It caused one to be unable to refrain from daydreaming. Duan Lingtian walked out with large strides and headed towards the entrance of the Feng clan estate. In next to no time, the guards at the entrance of the Feng clan estate abruptly stood out, and they seemed to have transformed into numerous guardian deities that obstructed Duan Lingtian's path. These Feng clan guards wore fiery red clothes, and the space between their brows was filled with seriousness, causing them to seem to possess an overbearing aura. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's spiritual force stretched out to envelop these Feng clan guards and detect their cultivations. The strongest amongst these Feng clan guards was at the 9th level of the void prying stage, and the weakest was at the 7th level of the void prying stage. This caused Duan Lingtian to be slightly speechless. I truly never imagined that the clan Tianwu is from is so terrifying. A martial artist at the 7th level of the void prying stage or above is actually only a guard of the clan she's from. Duan Lingtian was shocked in his heart. What are you here for? Meanwhile, the one and only 9th level void prying stage martial artist amongst the Feng clan guards stood out and stared at Duan Lingtian as he asked with a low voice. I've come to look for someone. Duan Lingtian shrugged and spoke slowly. Who are you looking for? The Feng clan guard pursued the root of the matter. I'm looking for Feng Tianwu. Duan Lingtian directly stated the reason he'd come. Feng Tianwu? The group of Feng clan guards couldn't help but be stunned. Feng Tianwu? Does our Feng clan have such a person? Instantly, many Feng clan guards looked at each other, and some even couldn't help but mutter. Although their voices were soft, it was completely heard by Duan Lingtian, and it caused Duan Lingtian to be speechless. It can't be. These people actually don't recognize Tianwu? Little brother, have you come to the wrong place? Our Feng clan doesn't have a person called Feng Tianwu. In next to no time, the Feng clan guard in the lead spoke to Duan Lingtian. There's no person called Feng Tianwu? The Feng clan guard's words caused Duan Lingtian to be unable to help but be stunned for a time. Are you sure your Feng clan doesn't have a person called Feng Tianwu? In the end, Duan Lingtian recovered from his shock and asked. No. In the end, the answer Duan Lingtian obtained was still the same. Then I want to ask, how many Feng clans are there in the capital of the Darkhan dynasty? Duan Lingtian asked. In the capital of the Darkhan dynasty, there's only our Feng clan. The Feng clan guard answered Duan Lingtian patiently. Only the Feng clan? Duan Lingtian heaved a sigh of relief. Earlier, when these Feng clan guards said their Feng clan didn't have a person called Feng Tianwu, he thought he'd come to the wrong place. He'd even once guessed that it was very likely that a second Feng clan existed in the capital of the Darkhan dynasty. And Feng Qianwu was in that Feng clan. But now, the words of the Feng clan guard caused Duan Lingtian to realize that he didn't come to the wrong place. This place was the Feng clan he was looking for. But, they actually don't know Tianwu? How could this be possible? I want to confirm if the person I'm looking for is really in your Feng clan. If all of you haven't heard of Feng Qianwu, then do all of you know Feng Wudao? Duan Lingtian looked at the Feng clan guard and asked a step further. Feng Wudao. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian noticed that when he spoke these words, the expressions of the group of Feng clan guards went completely pale. These Feng clan guards originally had casual expressions. But right at the instant they finished speaking, they simultaneously revealed expressions of reverence. Chapter 635. When he saw the reverence that the group of Feng clan guards revealed, Duan Lingtian knew that he hadn't found the wrong place. This place was precisely the Feng clan that Feng Wudao spoke of that day. But how could these members of the Feng clan not know Tianwu? This caused Duan Lingtian to be extremely puzzled. Right at this moment, the Feng clan guard in the lead was the first to recover from his shock, and he took a deep breath before looking at Duan Lingtian. Young master, you know the eldest master? Eldest master? Duan Lingtian was stunned, and then he reacted to what had happened. This Feng clan guard was precisely speaking of Feng Wudao. Yes, I know him. I came here precisely for the sake of looking for him. Duan Lingtian nodded. When he saw Duan Lingtian agree, the Feng clan guard looked at Duan Lingtian once more, and there was slight reverence in his eyes. I've offended you earlier, please forgive me, young master. Duan Lingtian smiled lightly. It's fine. I wonder if you can help me notify him? Young master, please follow me. The Feng clan guard didn't go in to notify him, and he directly called out to Duan Lingtian instead. Then he led the way in front and led Duan Lingtian into the Feng clan estate. As for the other Feng clan guards, they stood at the sides and looked respectfully at Duan Lingtian's figure that was disappearing into the distance. The eldest master hasn't appeared before others for many years. I never imagined that such a young man would actually know the eldest master. Yeah, the eldest master is an unreachable legend in our Feng clan. According to rumor, if it wasn't for the eldest master having no interest in the position of patriarch of our Feng clan, the current patriarch of our Feng clan would surely be the eldest master. I've heard of this as well. Supposedly, the eldest master's strength has already attained the acme of perfection, and it's even not inferior to our Feng clan's two ancestors. All the Feng clan guards whispered in discussion. All of their words were filled with reverence towards Feng Wudao. Feng Wudao, the eldest master of the Feng clan, and the big brother of the current Feng clan patriarch. His status in the Feng clan wasn't inferior to the patriarch in the slightest, and he directly chased after the two great ancestors. Duan Lingtian had learned all of this from the Feng family's general as he followed behind him. Never would I have expected that city master Feng from back then to have such a background. Duan Lingtian was secretly shocked. At the same time, Duan Lingtian curiously asked the Feng clan guard that led the way ahead. Big brother, I see that your Feng clan estate is extremely grand, and it isn't much inferior to the imperial palace. Your Feng clan's status in the Darkhan dynasty ought to not be low, right? Duan Lingtian's words were actually just a test. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the Feng clan general revealed a proud expression, and at the same time, he looked at Duan Lingtian and asked, Young master, you're probably not a member of our Darkhan dynasty, right? How do you know? Duan Lingtian was stunned. If young master is a member of the Darkhan dynasty, then it's impossible for him to not understand our Feng clan. The Feng clan guard lightly smiled. Duan Lingtian's brows raised. In his heart, he faintly realized that the Feng clan was probably in existence with an extraordinary status in the Darkhan dynasty. Meanwhile, the Feng clan guard looked respectfully at Duan Lingtian and asked, I wonder how I should address you, young master? Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian spoke frankly. So it's young master Lingtian? If I'm not wrong, young master Lingtian's appearance in the Darkhan dynasty is most probably for the sake of the dynasty martial competition, right? As the Feng clan guard finished speaking, he glanced deeply at Duan Lingtian. Exactly. Duan Lingtian didn't conceal it, and then he asked with slight surprise. How did you see through it? Logically speaking, it's truly difficult for others to connect me with the dynasty martial competition with my age. Indeed. The dynasty martial competition gathered the most outstanding young geniuses of the Darkhan dynasty and the young geniuses that stood out from the various empires. Normally speaking, these young geniuses were practically all existences around the age of 35. It was extremely difficult for people to connect a young man around the age of 25 like Duan Ling Tian with the dynasty martial competition. Young Master Ling Tian, I'm actually guessing as well. Since you know the eldest master, then you naturally can't look at him with an ordinary gaze. The Feng clan guard smiled as a matter of course. As he spoke, he revealed extreme blind adoration towards the eldest master of the Feng clan, Feng Wu Dao. This works as well? Duan Ling Tian was slightly speechless. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian deeply realized Feng Wu Dao's status in the Feng clan. He wasn't the patriarch, yet surpassed the patriarch. With the status of city governor Feng in the Feng clan, logically speaking, as his daughter, Tian Wu ought to be familiar to the members of the Feng clan. But why do they just happen to not know Tian Wu? Duan Ling Tian was extremely puzzled about this. But he didn't directly ask this Feng clan guard. I'll wait until I see city governor Feng or Tian Wu. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. The Feng clan estate was extremely vast, and it wasn't the slightest bit inferior to the Darkstone Empire's imperial palace. There were numerous servants and maidservants bustling about on the way. On the other hand, Duan Ling Tian followed behind the Feng clan guard and headed all the way towards the east of the Feng clan estate. In the end, they stood before an exceedingly vast estate. This estate was an estate within an estate, and it stood within the Feng clan estate with its door tightly shut, as if it was completely isolated from everything outside. Young Master Ling Tian, this is the estate that the eldest master resides in. The Feng clan guard looked at Duan Ling Tian and spoke respectfully. Subsequently, he took 2 steps forward and knocked on the door of the estate. After a short moment, the door of the estate was slowly opened. An aged figure appeared behind the door. This was an old woman. The old woman had an aged appearance and wore green clothes, and she looked like a rotten old woman, but if one looked carefully, one would notice that there seemed to be 2 strands of bright lights leaping about in the depths of the old woman's eyes. This old woman wasn't simple. Senior Su. The Feng clan guard bowed respectfully when facing the old woman. Is there something you need? The old woman didn't even raise her head as she spoke indifferently. Senior. Before the Feng clan guard spoke, Duan Ling Tian couldn't refrain himself from speaking first. He recognized this old woman. The old woman was none other than the Grandma Su he'd met in the Phoenix Nest city governor's estate that day. She was also someone that followed by Tian Wu's side. At that time, for the sake of Tian Wu, Grandma Su didn't even hesitate to kneel before him, and her loyalty to Tian Wu was something that the heavens and the earth could bear witness to. Duan Ling Tian had always felt respect towards Grandma Su. Duan Ling Tian's voice broke the slightly silent atmosphere at the scene. On the other hand, Grandma Su finally raised her head slowly, and she noticed Duan Ling Tian who stood behind the Feng clan guard with a single glance. Young Master Ling Tian. Grandma Su's muddy eyes flickered with bright lights when she saw Duan Ling Tian, and she spoke out with slight pleasant surprise. On the other hand, when the Feng clan guard saw the old woman lose her composure and call out Duan Ling Tian's name, he truly realized that Duan Ling Tian wasn't simple. What a joke. He was extremely clear about who this old woman before him was. Supposedly, this old woman was once the personal servant girl by the side of the wife of the previous patriarch of the Feng clan, and she herself was an expert with extraordinary strength. Presently, even if it was the Feng clan's patriarch, he would still have to be respectful when facing her. She only had to say a single word to control the life and death of a Feng clan guard like him. Senior, long time no see. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled and nodded to Grandma Su, and it could be considered as a greeting. Grandma Su didn't mind and called out to Duan Ling Tian. Young Master Ling Tian, please come in. When Duan Ling Tian walked into the estate within the estate before him, he didn't forget to turn around and nod to the Feng clan guard. Sorry for the trouble. Young Master Ling Tian, you're too courteous. The Feng clan guard hurriedly replied humbly. The Feng clan guard only took a deep breath when the estate within the estate before him was closed, and then he turned around and left. His heart was filled with shock. Earlier, even if it was Senior Su, he was extremely respectful when facing that young man. Even those young masters of our Feng clan weren't treated like this by Senior Su. He wouldn't be the eldest master's illegitimate son, right? As he thought about this, the Feng clan guard couldn't help but guess in his heart. Of course he only dared to guess. If he dared speak of this guess of his, then even if he had 10 lives, it still wouldn't be enough. Presently, Duan Lingtian followed Grandma Su into the estate within the Feng clan estate, and this estate belonged to the Feng clan's eldest master, Feng Wudao. Young Master Lingtian, when did you come to the capital? Grandma Su led Duan Lingtian in as she asked. I've been here for some time. Duan Lingtian smiled lightly and then he asked. Senior, are City Governor Feng and Tianwu here? Grandma Su shook her head. The eldest master and the young miss went out last month, and they'll probably be gone for some time. But they'll surely be able to rush back before the dynasty martial competition. They went out? Duan Lingtian laughed bitterly. Looks like I've really come at the wrong time. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian was invited into the main hall at the center of the estate by Grandma Su, and she brewed a pot of tea for Duan Lingtian. There wasn't a single servant or maidservant in the entire estate, and it was cold and cheerless. Elder Kong isn't here as well? Duan Lingtian looked at the surroundings and asked. Grandma Su nodded. Elder Kong has gone out with the eldest master and the young miss. Young Master Lingtian, you probably didn't come to the Darkhan dynasty's capital especially for the sake of looking for the eldest master and the young miss, right? Duan Lingtian had said earlier that he'd already arrived at the Darkhan dynasty's capital for some time, and this obviously showed that Duan Lingtian hadn't come here only for the sake of the Feng clan. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. I've precisely come for the dynasty martial competition. Dynasty martial competition? Grandma Su was slightly surprised. Could it be that young Master Lingtian has come representing the Darkstone Empire? Duan Lingtian continued nodding. For a time, the gaze Grandma Su shot at Duan Lingtian had completely changed. I never imagined that in a short few years young Master Lingtian's strength would actually improve so swiftly, and he even became eminent amongst the numerous young geniuses of the Darkstone Empire to obtain the qualifications to participate in the dynasty martial competition. I was just lucky. Duan Lingtian spoke modestly. What? Grandma Su shook her head. She'd lived for more than half her life, so she naturally wouldn't believe that this was luck. As expected of the man the young miss is destined to be. Extraordinary as expected. Chapter 636. Senior. Duan Lingtian looked at Grandma Su and said curiously, I asked those Feng clan guards at the entrance of the Feng clan estate earlier. They seemed to not know of the existence of Tianwu. This was something that Duan Lingtian was deeply puzzled about until now. Feng Qianwu was the daughter of the Feng clan's eldest master, Feng Wudao. Logically speaking, everyone in the Feng clan ought to know of her. But those Feng clan guards seemed as if they'd utterly not heard that the Feng clan possessed a figure like Feng Qianwu. This isn't strange. Grandma Su shook her head and said slowly, to a certain extent, the existence of the young miss isn't acknowledged by our Feng clan. In our Feng clan, only the people by the eldest master's side and the young miss's side, and some higher-ups of the Feng clan know of the young miss's existence. All along, the higher-ups of the Feng clan have intentionally concealed the existence of the young miss to the outside world. So, in the Feng clan, not to mention those clan generals, servants and servant girls, even some young direct line disciples don't know of the existence of the young Mississippi. As she finished speaking, Grandma Su sighed. Why did the Feng clan's higher-ups do this? Duan Lingtian frowned. Because of the Feng clan's face. Grandma Su spoke slowly. Face? Duan Lingtian was slightly puzzled. Could it be that Tianwu's existence can affect the Feng clan's face? What sort of explanation is this? If young Master Lingtian has the time, then this old woman will disturb young Master Lingtian. Allow young Master Lingtian to understand the cause of this matter. Suddenly, Grandma Su sat down at the side. I have the time. Duan Lingtian nodded, and he was filled with curiosity towards the cause of this matter. At this moment, Grandma Su slowly opened her mouth. Many years ago, beneath the imperial family in the Darkhan dynasty, there were two great clans that reigned supreme. These two great clans were respectively our Feng clan and the Long clan. Our Feng clan and Long clan have always been like fire and water. In the end, we even completely shed all pretenses and caused a storm of blood. The two great clans started an unprecedented battle. At that time, the battle between the two great clans was so intense that it was hard for ordinary people to imagine. The upper echelons of the two great clans all swore that they would exterminate the other clan, and completely exterminate the other clan's bloodline. 30 years ago, our Feng clan schemed against the Long clan and killed numerous void interpretation stage experts. Since then, the Long clan was suppressed by our Feng clan and was even almost annihilated by our Feng clan. And it was at that time that no one would have imagined that the son of our Feng clan's patriarch, the eldest young master of the Feng clan, would actually save the third young miss of the Long clan and even have deep feelings for her. When the old patriarch found out about this matter, it was already many years later. At that time, our Feng clan's eldest young master and Long clan's third young miss had already given birth to a daughter. That time the old patriarch was angered to death. The Long clan's third young miss blamed herself and chose to commit suicide. At that time only a single bloodline remained in the Long clan, and that was... When Grandma Su spoke up to hear, she was already sighing repeatedly. That was Tian Wu, right? Duan Ling Tian asked. Yes. Grandma Su nodded. As expected. Duan Ling Tian's gaze was complicated. When Grandma Su spoke of this story, he guessed that the Feng clan's eldest young master in the story was Feng Wu Dao, whereas the Long clan's third young miss was Tian Wu's mother. Tian Wu possessed the bloodline of both the Long clan and Feng clan. What happened after that? Did City Governor Feng protect Tian Wu? Duan Ling Tian asked. After arriving in this world for so long, he had a certain level of understanding towards some things in this world. A great clan like the Feng clan attached great importance to face. The Feng clan's old patriarch was angered to death because he felt that his son had brought shame to the Feng clan, and it was because he didn't teach his son well. Duan Ling Tian was able to imagine it. After Tian Wu's mother committed suicide, all the higher-ups of the Feng clan would surely cut off the last trace of the Long clan's bloodline for the sake of the vow the Feng clan had once made. Feng Tianwu. No. Grandma Su shook her head. At that time, even though the eldest young master's strength could be said to be at the top amongst his peers, he wasn't a match for that group of old fellows. At that time, it was the Lord Priest and Elder Kong that interfered and protected the young Miss's life. But from that time onwards, the higher-ups of the Feng clan came to an agreement to not allow outsiders to know of all this. Whereas the young miss was hidden away, and from then on, she followed by the side of the former eldest young master, the current eldest young master, and lived in seclusion. It was precisely because of this that very few people in the Feng clan knew of the young miss's existence. Grandma Su finished speaking in a single breath. Duan Ling Tian let out a long sigh. I truly never imagined that Tian Wu had such a complicated past. Does Tian Wu know of all this? She doesn't. Grandma Su shook her head, and her expression gradually became serious. Young Master Ling Tian, you must not mention this matter to the young miss no matter what. Otherwise, I'm afraid the young miss will find it difficult to accept. I understand. Duan Ling Tian nodded solemnly. He was able to imagine. If Tian Wu found out about this matter, she would probably be overwhelmed with pain. My grandfather was angered to death by me and my parents. Whereas my mother committed suicide because of the death of my grandfather. Most importantly, the other half of the bloodline in her body belonged to the Long clan. Whereas the Long clan was annihilated by the Feng clan. If Tian Wu were to find out the truth of all this, then how would she deal with it? Duan Ling Tian found it difficult to imagine. So up until now, the best solution was to never allow Tian Wu to find out about this secret. She's truly a little girl with a fate full of misfortune. Her background is so pitiful, and she even possesses the fire spirit body. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian felt even more pity towards Feng Tianwu in his heart. Young Master Ling Tian, the young miss will be participating in the Dynasty Martial competition this time. At that time, the young miss will officially make an appearance before everyone. As Grandma Su spoke up to hear, she revealed a rare smile. Are the Feng clan higher-ups willing to allow Tian Wu to make an appearance before everyone? Duan Ling Tian asked. Now it's already beyond their control. Grandma Su spoke slowly, and the space between her brows revealed strong confidence. It's beyond their control? Duan Ling Tian was first stunned, and then he recovered from his shock and guessed the meaning contained within Grandma Su's words. Looks like City Governor Feng doesn't have to care about the feelings of that group of Feng clan higher-ups anymore. But even if Tian Wu makes an appearance before everyone, her identity will probably be intentionally concealed. This was something Duan Ling Tian could confirm. He believed it. As Tian Wu's father, for the sake of Tian Wu, City Governor Feng would absolutely not allow Tian Wu to know of her background. But there was one thing he could be sure of. That was Tian Wu, the only daughter of the Feng clan's eldest master, would be known by the world from today onwards and receive great honor and favor. Tian Wu. Duan Ling Tian was happy for Tian Wu as well. Tian Wu finally didn't have to conceal herself any longer. This little girl with a fate full of misfortune. I hope a method to deal with her fire spirit body can be found. Presently my true age is almost approaching 30 years old. But up until now there are still no signs of awakening an innate spirit body. Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart. Even though he'd been taken to be the man that Feng Tianwu was destined to be. But up until now he was utterly unable to help Feng Tianwu deal with the latent threat of the fire spirit body. Perhaps that prophecy is wrong after all. Duan Lingtian thought in his heart. Young Master Lingtian, why don't you stay here first and wait for the eldest master and the young miss to return? Grandma Su suggested. There's no need. Duan Lingtian shook his head. I have a place to stay. Since City Governor Feng and Tianwu will return before the Dynasty Martial competition, then I'll naturally have the chance to meet them at that time. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian bid his farewells and left. Grandma Su sent Duan Lingtian all the way to the entrance of the Feng clan estate. This caused the group of guards at the entrance of the Feng clan estate to be dumbstruck. They only recovered from their shock when Grandma Su left and Duan Lingtian's figure vanished before their eyes. Senior Su actually personally sent this young master out? Who exactly is he? As someone by the side of the eldest master, Senior Su has always lived in seclusion. Even if it's the group of young masters and young misses in the clan, Senior Su doesn't pay the slightest attention to them. Yet this young man is able to make her treat him like this. It's truly shocking. Many Feng clan guards whispered in discussion. On the other hand, the Feng clan guard that brought Duan Lingtian in earlier maintained a calm expression from the beginning until the end. He wasn't surprised by everything that happened earlier, because he'd noticed since long ago that the old woman had a respectful attitude towards the violet-clothed young man. Even though I didn't see City Governor Feng and Tianwu when I came to the Feng clan this time, but I found out about Tianwu's origins, so I didn't come here in vain. After Duan Lingtian left the Feng clan, he intended to return to the estate the Darkstone Empire had purchased in the Darkhan Dynasty's capital. When he passed by a restaurant, there just happened to be two middle-aged men that walked past Duan Lingtian. The conversation between the two of them drew Duan Lingtian's attention. The Zhang clan is probably going to be in the limelight this time. That eldest young master of the Zhang clan that returned has already broken through to the 8th level of the Void initiation stage at such a young age. It's truly shocking. Supposedly, the Zhang clan's eldest young master has already touched the threshold of the 9th level of the Void initiation stage. He has a chance of breaking through to the 9th level of the Void initiation stage when the Dynasty Martial competition begins. Looks like the Zhang clan will surely be able to obtain a position to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties this time. Eldest young master Zhang? Surname Zhang? For a time, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but recall that big brother Zhang Shouyong, that he'd had some interactions with that day. Big brother Zhang seems to be a member of the Darkhan Dynasty's Zhang clan. Could it be that the eldest young master Zhang they spoke of that has returned as big brother Zhang? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up as he strode out at the same time to stop the two people that were discussing animatedly. What are you doing? Chapter 637. I don't have any ill intent. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled, then said, I just want to ask the two of you, is the Zhang clan eldest young master you speak of called Zhang Shouyong? Exactly. The two middle-aged men's expressions eased up slightly when they saw Duan Lingtian only asked about this, and they nodded. Do the two of you know how to get to the Zhang clan? Duan Lingtian asked again. You know the Zhang clan eldest young master? Meanwhile, the two middle-aged men reacted to Duan Lingtian's question, and their faces contained slight seriousness. No matter if it was the Zhang clan or the Zhang clan eldest young master. To them, they were existences that were far beyond their reach. Yes, he's my friend. Now that I think about it, I haven't seen him for over 2 years. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled as he nodded. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian noticed. The gazes the two middle-aged men before him looked at him with were completely different. There was slight reverence in their gazes. The Zhang clan estate of the Zhang clan is in, go that way. In next to no time, the two middle-aged men hurriedly pointed the way to the Zhang clan to Duan Lingtian. Thank you. After he found out the location of the Zhang clan estate, Duan Lingtian thanked the two middle-aged men before leaving with large strides. In next to no time, Duan Lingtian arrived outside a spacious estate. This Zhang clan estate is slightly smaller than the Feng clan estate. Looks like there's a certain distance between the Zhang clan and the Feng clan in the capital of the Darkhan dynasty. Duan Lingtian guessed in his heart. At the entrance to the Zhang clan estate, Duan Lingtian was stopped by a few Zhang clan guards. "Oh, what do you want?" The Zhang clan guards looked vigilantly at Duan Lingtian. "I'm looking for Big Brother Zhang Shouyong." Duan Lingtian nodded to the Zhang clan guards and went straight to the point. You're a friend of the eldest young master?" Instantly, the expressions of the Zhang clan guards eased up, and the gazes they shot at Duan Lingtian seemed to contain slight respect. The eldest young master was a legend to these Zhang clan members. At that time, before the eldest young master left home, he was the top genius of their Zhang clan. This time, because of the martial competition of the 10 dynasties, their eldest young master had returned to participate in the dynasty martial competition, and it had caused the confidence of their Zhang clan to increase greatly. As far as everyone in the Zhang clan was concerned, it wasn't difficult for their eldest young master to become eminent in the dynasty martial competition and obtain the qualifications to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties with his strength. Now that they knew that the purple-clothed young man in front of them was their young master's friend, they naturally didn't dare to slight him. "What? Do you suspect that I'm an imposter? Your young master should be here, right? Bring me to him. If I'm an imposter, he'll be able to tell at a glance." Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. No, we didn't mean that." "That's right. We believe in you, young master. We believe in you." Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, the Zhang family's guards panicked. What a joke. If the eldest young master found out that they suspected his friend, then wouldn't they lose a layer of skin in his rage? "Young master, I'll bring you to see the eldest young master." In next to no time, a Zhang clan guard stood out and spoke respectfully to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded and followed behind this Zhang clan guard to enter the Zhang clan estate. Under the lead of the Zhang clan guard, Duan Lingtian moved all along the way through the Zhang clan estate before finally arriving outside a courtyard. Within the courtyard, there just happened to be a maidservant holding a broom walking out with large strides, and she'd obviously just cleaned up the courtyard. "Is the eldest young master here?" the Zhang clan guard asked the maidservant. "The eldest young master has accompanied the eldest young madam to admire the flowers by the lake," said the maidservant. Subsequently, the Zhang clan guard brought Duan Lingtian to the other side. They passed through all the way and finally arrived nearby a spacious lake. This lake was obviously specially dug out by the Zhang clan, and it occupied a vast area, and there was a stone bridge that curved horizontally above it. "The eldest young master is over there." The Zhang clan guard brought Duan Lingtian to the side of the lake, and he looked towards a pergola at the center of the lake as he spoke to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded. He'd seen it since long ago. In the distant pergola, there was a man and woman standing there, and they were admiring the clusters of flowers at the side of the pergola. Duan Lingtian wasn't unfamiliar to this man and woman. It was precisely Zhang Shouyong and his wife. "Go ahead. I'll go over myself." Duan Lingtian nodded to the Zhang clan guard, and then he stepped onto the stone bridge and walked towards the pergola at the center of the lake. On the other hand, the Zhang clan guard didn't leave directly, and he stood on the spot as he silently watched Duan Lingtian walk towards the pergola. Now he wanted to confirm if this violet-clothed young man knew the eldest young master of their Zhang clan. If he didn't, then it was equivalent to bringing in a ticking time bomb. If the eldest young master was enraged because of this, he would surely be unable to bear the consequences. Looks like I was thinking too much. In next to no time, the Zhang clan guard saw the eldest young master in the pergola greet the violet-clothed young man excitedly when he saw the violet-clothed young man. At this moment, the Zhang clan guard felt at ease and turned around to leave. At the side of the pergola, Duan Lingtian looked at the white-robed young man that came over to greet him. "Big Brother Zhang." "Ah, Brother Lingtian, you finally come." Zhang Shouyong walked over in large strides to arrive before Duan Lingtian, and his face revealed a brilliant smile. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian was welcomed into the pergola by Zhang Shouyong. "Sister-in-law." Duan Lingtian looked at Wang Qiong, who was in the pergola, and greeted her with a light smile. Wang Qiong smiled as she replied, and then she said sensibly, "Both of you haven't seen each other for a long time, sit down and have a good chat. I'll go prepare fine wine and delicacies for both of you." As she spoke, Wang Qiong turned around and left. Big Brother Zhang is truly fortunate to be able to encounter such a wonderful person like sister-in-law. Duan Lingtian praised as he looked at Wang Qiong's figure that vanished into the distance. In terms of fortune, how could I compare to Brother Lingtian? Someone as outstanding as little sister Li Fei is only one of your two close female friends. Zhang Shouyong shook his head. What? Big brother Zhang, you want to find another one as well? Duan Lingtian teased. Go away. Kid, don't get me into trouble. Zhang Shouyong glared at Duan Lingtian, and then he called out to Duan Lingtian to sit at the stone table in the pergola. Brother Lingtian, you've probably been here for a long time, right? Why have you only come to look for me now? Zhang Shouyong looked at Duan Lingtian and asked. Duan Lingtian laughed embarrassedly. Even though I came to the Dark Han Dynasty's capital a long time ago, I left for a period of time. I've only returned recently. Zhang Shouyong came to a sudden understanding, and then he said with a smile, I heard that amongst the young geniuses that came from the Darkstone Empire this time, there are some with good strengths. There's a person called Mo Xian that obtained the honor of being the #1 young expert in the Darkstone Empire during the Young Genius competition half a year ago? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. Half a year ago, during the Young Genius competition of the Darkstone Empire, Mo Xian was the last to appear, and he used a cultivation at the 3rd level of the Void Initiation stage to suppress the numerous young geniuses of the Darkstone Empire. Even Duan Lingtian at that time didn't dare rashly go head-to-head with him. Of course, it was only at that time. Presently, Duan Lingtian felt that he wasn't afraid of Mo Xian. Unless Mo Xian had a fortuitous encounter like him, otherwise, it was impossible for Mo Xian to compare to him now. Presently, his cultivation had already broken through to the 5th level of the Void Initiation stage, and his spiritual force had even attained the level of the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage. So long as a 7th level Void Initiation stage martial artist wasn't an inscription master, it would be impossible for the martial artist to escape the interference of the illusory space created by his soul skill, 1000 illusions. Moreover, relying on the wind concept fragment, at the same time that Duan Lingtian's cultivation rose swiftly, his comprehension of wind concept wasn't slow in the slightest. Presently, Duan Lingtian's elementary wind concept had already been comprehended to the 5th level. 5th level Void Initiation stage cultivation, 5th level wind concept. Coupled with his spiritual force at the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage. It was sufficient to allow Duan Lingtian to reign supreme amongst the numerous young geniuses of the Darkstone Empire. If it was said that amongst the other 9 young geniuses of the Darkstone Empire, the person he was most afraid of was undoubtedly his good friend, Su Li. Su Li had a mysterious and unfathomable master. Presently, Su Li's cultivation was probably not the 4th level of the Void Initiation stage that he saw the last time. After Su Li, the person that Duan Lingtian was more afraid of was Long Yun. Long Yun has a master as well, and his master isn't much inferior to Su Li's master. Perhaps Long Yun's strength has already caught up to Mo Xian now. Duan Lingtian guessed in his heart. As far as Duan Lingtian was concerned, unless Mo Xian had fortuitous encounters like him, Su Li and Long Yun. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Mo Xian to surpass the 3 of them in his entire lifetime. Are you confident in defeating him now? Zhang Shouyong stared at Duan Lingtian with a gaze that contained deep meaning. I don't dare say I'm confident. I'll only know after I try. Duan Lingtian shrugged and spoke modestly. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian said with a smile, Big brother Zhang, I heard that your cultivation has already broken through to the 8th level of the Void Initiation stage. When the Dynasty Martial competition arrives half a year from now, you even have a chance to break through to the 9th level of the Void Initiation stage. Zhang Shouyong smiled lightly. Not necessarily. Presently, I've only touched the threshold of the 9th level of the Void Initiation stage, and there's still quite a distance for me to break through. Big brother Zhang, you're being modest. Duan Lingtian shook his head, and then he asked curiously. Big brother Zhang, I wonder if your Earth concept. Right at this moment, an abrupt voice interrupted Duan Lingtian. Big brother, I heard you have a friend? A calm voice sounded out from afar. The voice sounded to be calm, yet Duan Lingtian was able to sense a trace of jealousy and hatred that wasn't obvious. Duan Lingtian raised his head to look over. A robust young man around the age of 30 that wore blue clothes with a medium build walked over with large strides, and he walked into the pergola at the center of the lake in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, Zhang Shouyong stood up and glanced indifferently at this person before introducing to Duan Lingtian. Brother Lingtian, this is my second brother, Zhang Shouyuan. Duan Lingtian lightly smiled as he nodded to the robust young man, Zhang Shouyuan. No matter what, this person was Zhang Shouyong's second brother, and he couldn't be rude. But in next to no time, the smile on Duan Lingtian's face froze. Chapter 638. Even a person made of clay had a temper. Zhang Shouyuan's attitude caused Duan Lingtian to be unable to help but frown. This is Big Brother Zhang's second brother? Right at this moment, a voice transmission entered clearly into Duan Lingtian's ears. Brother Lingtian, this is my second brother of the same father. He refused to accept me since a young age and made it difficult for me at all times. This time, I suddenly returned and seized his limelight, causing him to be even more displeased. But his strength is inferior to me, yet he doesn't dare offend me directly. He's actually intentionally making it difficult for me by treating you like this now. You don't have to take it to heart. Duan Lingtian was able to discern that this was Zhang Shouyuan's voice transmission. So they're brothers of the same father. Duan Lingtian came to a sudden understanding. He was wondering why Zhang Shouyuan would have such a brother with his straightforward character. So it turned out that they grew up drinking milk from different mothers. No wonder. Big brother Zhang, don't worry, I'm not to the extent of making a fuss about it with him. Duan Lingtian shrugged and replied via voice transmission. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's spiritual force stretched out to envelop Zhang Shouyuan. He detected Zhang Shouyuan's cultivation at the first possible moment. 6th level of the Void Initiation stage. Needless to say, even though Zhang Shouyuan was slightly arrogant, his strength and natural talent weren't bad. His age wasn't much older than the young genius of the Darkstone Empire, Mo Xian, that had come to the capital with him, yet his cultivation seemed to have surpassed Mo Xian. Big brother, sit. And this? What's your name again? After Zhang Shouyuan gestured for Zhang Shouyuan to sit, he looked at Duan Lingtian and frowned as he picked his ear. I'm sorry, my memory is bad and I forgot your name. You ought to not mind introducing yourself again, right? Zhang Shouyuan looked at Duan Lingtian and narrowed his eyes as he asked with a smile. Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at Zhang Shouyuan as he spoke word by word. Duan Lingtian? This name isn't bad, it's arrogant enough. I just don't know if you're qualified to have such a crazy name. Zhang Shouyuan stared at Duan Lingtian with flowing light flickering in his eyes, and there was no lack of provocation. Just a name. What qualifications do I need? Duan Lingtian shook his head and sat down again. He looked at Zhang Shouyong and said, Brother Zhang, we parted in a hurry last time, so I didn't have the chance to catch up with you. Today, after sister-in-law has prepared some good wine and delicacies, I will definitely drink with you until we're drunk. Good. Today, Brother Lingtian and I will drink until we're drunk. Zhang Shouyong withdrew his gaze from Zhang Shouyuan and looked towards Duan Lingtian as he laughed heartily. On the other hand, the expression of Zhang Shouyuan who stood at the side darkened completely. What an arrogant brat. Zhang Shouyuan stared at Duan Lingtian with a fierce glint in his eyes. In his opinion, a kid who looked to be around 25 years old actually dared to give him a hard time. He was simply courting death. Did they really think that he, Zhang Shouyuan, was a sick cat? Big brother. Zhang Shouyuan looked at Zhang Shouyong and lightly smiled as he asked. Earlier, even though I was far away, I still heard you and this friend of yours discussing the Dynasty Martial competition. He seems to have become eminent in the Darkstone Empire and is a young genius that has come to participate in the Dynasty Martial competition of our Darkhan dynasty? So what if he is? Zhang Shouyong frowned and spoke with slight impatience. He was extremely clear about the ability of this second brother of his who shared the same father but a different mother. Now, he faintly realized that this second brother of his intended to do something. Moreover, it was targeted towards Duan Lingtian. He thought in his heart and was prepared. So long as this second brother of his dared act rashly, he would stop it at the first possible moment. In this way, even though this friend of yours is young, his strength is extremely high? It's even to the extent that his natural talent might be even stronger than you? Zhang Shouyuan continued. Brother Lingtian's natural talent is naturally stronger than mine. Zhang Shouyong said. I truly never imagined that I, Zhang Shouyuan, would have the fortune to meet someone that even Big Brother feels inferior to. This is Brother Lingtian, right? Zhang Shouyuan's face revealed a brilliant smile, and in the end he looked at Duan Lingtian. Brother Lingtian, my big brother admits that his natural talent is inferior to yours. I presume that even though you're young, your cultivation is surely extremely extraordinary? You're too kind. Duan Lingtian nodded indifferently. The depths of Zhang Shouyuan's gaze flickered with a flowing light of his scheme succeeding, and he went straight to the point. Brother Lingtian, why don't we have a spar before my sister-in-law has finished preparing the fine wine and delicacies? I really want to experience your strength. At this moment, Zhang Shouyuan had completely exposed his objective. Earlier, his flattery of Duan Lingtian was actually only setting the stage. What he was waiting for was precisely this moment. It would make it difficult for Duan Lingtian to refuse his challenge of a spar. A 6th-level void initiation stage martial artist like you bullying a young man over the age of 20. Don't you think it's shameful? Finally, Zhang Shouyong couldn't watch on any longer. Big brother, what you said is wrong. I only admire brother Ling Tian's natural talent and strength, and I only want to have a spar with him. Zhang Shouyuan shook his head and stared at Duan Lingtian as he said slowly, Brother Lingtian, are you willing to give me face and have a spar with me? A spar between us can stop when it's appropriate, and be sure not to harm our relationship. Of course, if brother Lingtian doesn't dare, then forget it. As he finished speaking, Zhang Shouyuan's voice became slightly strange, and it was slightly sarcastic. Brother Lingtian, ignore him. Zhang Shouyong's voice transmission entered into Duan Lingtian's ears. He only wants to use you to strike a blow at me. If you agree, then you'll fall into his trap. But Zhang Shouyong's persuasion was obviously useless. Your big brother Zhang's second brother. Since you've spoken, I naturally won't refuse. I promise you that we'll have a spar. Duan Lingtian looked at Zhang Shouyuan and spoke word by word. Ah, good. Brother Lingtian is straightforward as expected. Zhang Shouyuan laughed loudly, and his eyes were filled with the sheen of a scheme that had succeeded. Subsequently, Zhang Shouyuan looked at the surroundings and said to Duan Lingtian, Brother Lingtian, even though we'll stop when it's appropriate, but because the space here is too small. If I'm careless and knock you into the lake and cause you to become a drenched rat, then you have to bear with it. As he finished speaking, Zhang Shouyuan's eyes were filled with a mocking expression. It was as if he'd already seen the scenes of Duan Lingtian being blasted into the lake by him and being drowned. Of course. Duan Lingtian nodded, and then he said, But if you accidentally fall into the lake, then I hope you similarly bear with it. Of course. Zhang Shouyuan replied with a smile, and he thought that Duan Lingtian was only sulking with him when he spoke these words. He really didn't take a young man over the age of 20 seriously. As far as he was concerned. After Duan Lingtian found out about his cultivation from his big brother, Duan Lingtian still dared to agree to spar with him. It was none other than because Duan Lingtian felt embarrassed and couldn't refuse. Actually, Duan Lingtian was already prepared to be bashed by Zhang Shouyuan. What he had to do now was cooperate with Duan Lingtian and properly bash Duan Lingtian, and make Duan Lingtian enter the lake to sober up. In this way he would be able to hold his head high before his big brother. If you want to blame someone, then blame yourself for getting acquainted with Zhang Shouyong and becoming friends with him. Zhang Shouyuan's heart was filled with boundless ruthlessness. Since it's like this, then please begin. Duan Lingtian left his seat and stood at the side of the pergola, and after he nodded to Zhang Shouyuan, he waited for Zhang Shouyuan to make a move. From the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian stood on the spot and didn't move like a mountain. Brother Lingtian is straightforward as expected. Since it's like this, then I won't hold back. Zhang Shouyuan replied as the origin energy on his body pulsated, and it converged even more onto his legs. For a time, the energy of the heavens and the earth roiled in the sky above him before transforming into 8 lifelike ancient horned dragon silhouettes that coiled down while accumulating force and waiting to be deployed. Suddenly Zhang Shouyuan moved. Swoosh. Zhang Shouyuan's entire body seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind that flashed directly towards Duan Lingtian. In the sky above him, another 5 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared beside the 8 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. There seemed to be strands of blue-colored energy within the raging origin energy on Zhang Shouyuan's body. 5th level water concept. At the instant Zhang Shouyuan made a move, Zhang Shouyong's heart rose to his throat, and his expression became slightly serious. He didn't know why Duan Lingtian would so readily accept his second brother's challenge. But if Duan Lingtian continued to persist, then it wasn't good for him to continue dissuading Duan Lingtian. Moreover, as far as he was concerned, this was only a spar, and Duan Lingtian would at most suffer some light injuries, and it wouldn't be anything serious. If his second brother dared attack ruthlessly, then he wouldn't stand by idly. Bring it on. When he saw Zhang Shouyuan seem to have transformed into a gust of wind that blew over, Duan Lingtian's eyes squinted, and 2 strands of faintly visible dim lights seemed to have appeared in the depths of his eyes. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's spiritual force pierced into the soul brand in the depths of his soul. 1,000 illusions. Instantly, Duan Lingtian utilized his soul skill. An illusory space was constructed by Duan Lingtian, and it swept out to envelop the body of Zhang Shouyuan who'd pounced over. At this instant, a tremendous change occurred in the world Zhang Shouyuan was in. Zhang Shouyuan was completely dumbstruck when he saw the scene before him. Heavens! What have I seen? The attack of his second brother, Zhang Shouyuan, was about to cover the heavens and the earth as it descended onto Duan Lingtian and was about to blast Duan Lingtian flying. Right at the critical moment, Zhang Shouyuan took the initiative to move aside. Accurately speaking, Zhang Shouyuan turned to attack the air at the side, and he barely avoided Duan Lingtian who stood on the spot without moving in the slightest. What's going on? The strange scene before him caused Zhang Shouyuan to be dumbstruck. What's second young master doing? Meanwhile, in the surroundings of the pergola, many Zhang clan servants stopped what they were doing and stared blankly at the scene before them. The scene before them was difficult to imagine, and they only felt it was unbelievable. In next to no time, everyone saw it again. Duan Lingtian, your strength isn't bad indeed. But I won't play with you any longer. Chapter 639. At this moment, a grade 5 spirit saber had appeared out of thin air in Zhang Shouyuan's hand, and the spirit saber whistled out as it slashed towards the lake. Instantly, the saber light condensed from origin energy combined with 5th level water concept whistled out to descend into the lake and forcefully split the water in the lake into two. Bang! Waves of water splashed out and drenched the clothes of Zhang Shouyuan who stood in midair. Second young master wouldn't have gone mad, right? Some of the spectating Zhang clan servants felt a chill run down their spines when they saw this scene, and chills ran down their spines. When had they seen a similar scene? In next to no time, Zhang Shouyuan struck out with his saber once more, and the saber light whistled out once more to descend into the lake. Instantly, waves of water arose once more in the lake and splashed out towards the surroundings. For a time, the group of servants in the surroundings of the pergola in the lake were drenched by the waves of water. But no one paid attention to this. The gazes of everyone were still on the Zhang clan's second young master, Zhang Shouyuan. What's going on? In the pergola in the lake, Zhang Shouyuan looked at the scene before him and was unable to recover from his shock for a long time. When he saw his second brother attacking the air and attacking the lake as if he'd gone mad, he was completely dumbstruck as well. In the end, he recovered from his shock and couldn't help but look at the nearby Duan Lingtian. And next to no time he noticed. Presently, Duan Lingtian looked at his second brother with a calm expression, and he seemed to not be surprised by everything that had occurred before his eyes. His heart couldn't help but tremble. All of this. Could it be that brother Lingtian controlled it all? For a time, traces of fear arose in Zhang Shouyuan's heart. There was no need to make a move, yet he was able to play with a dignified 6th level Void Initiation Stage martial artist in the palm of his hand. What ability is this? For the first time he felt Duan Lingtian was so unfamiliar. He still remembered that when he met Duan Lingtian for the first time a few years ago, it was at the Eternal Jade restaurant in the ancient city of Everlast in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. At that time, Duan Lingtian was only an extremely ordinary martial artist in his eyes. At that time, even if he were to face 100 or 1,000 Duan Lingtian, he would not feel any pressure. But now, for the first time in his life, he felt powerless in front of Duan Lingtian. That young man from the past had now grown to such an extent that he was completely unable to fathom him. If brother Lingtian's methods can affect me, then I'm afraid I'm no match for him. Zhang Shouyuan couldn't help but inwardly gasp. Moreover, the fear in his heart grew deeper and deeper along with the actions of his second brother Zhang Shouyuan, and it was difficult to eliminate. Duan Lingtian, do you dare not dodge? Suddenly Zhang Shouyuan shouted explosively. Under the gazes of everyone present, Zhang Shouyuan who floated in the sky above the lake lowered his head to look at the empty lake, and his eyes were suffused with a cold light. Let me see if you can continue fleeing. Whoosh! In the next moment, origin energy coiled around Zhang Shouyuan's body, and it was suffused with strands of dark blue-colored energy. His entire body seemed as if it was coiled by a layer of light mist, and he seemed to have transformed into a water dragon that charged into the lake with a bang. Zhang Shouyuan who didn't put up an origin energy light barrier to resist the lake water instantly became a drenched rat. Boom, 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 boom. Zhang Shouyuan didn't stop the movements of his hands while he was in the lake, and his spirit saber still swept out aimlessly in all directions. Instantly, the water in the entire lake splashed up and enveloped the entire lake and shore, and it seemed as if it was raining. Only the pergola at the center wasn't affected. Duanling Tian. Zhang Shouyuan roared ceaselessly, and every time the spirit saber in his hand flashed out, he would shout out in shock as if he was using this to boost his courage. The surrounding Zhang clan servants and maidservants grew in number. What's the second young master doing? The second young master wouldn't have really gone mad, right? It shouldn't be. In my opinion, he ought to be performing artificial rain for the eldest young master and the eldest young master's friends. With the relationship between the second young master and eldest young master, do you think there's such a possibility? The group of servants and maidservants discussed animatedly. The surrounding people grew in number, and in the end many Zhang clan disciples came over after hearing the news. When they saw the scene before their eyes, they were completely dumbstruck. Second young master. Second young master. Many people charged into the lake with the intention of waking Zhang Shouyuan up. But unfortunately they hadn't even approached when they were struck by Zhang Shouyuan's saber, and they could only retreat in panic, and all of them were terrified to the point their faces went ghastly pale. What's wrong with the second young master? Why doesn't he even recognize us? When he sees us, he's like a hunter that has seen his prey, and he wishes for nothing more than to swallow us up. Could it be that it's really as they said, the second young master has gone mad? The group of Zhang clan disciples looked at each other. In the end, the surroundings of the lake was practically filled with people. Everyone was watching Zhang Shouyuan's performance. Yuan. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman in luxurious clothes flashed over, and in the blink of an eye, she'd arrived nearby Zhang Shouyuan who was in the lake. Her expression was especially unsightly. But when facing the middle-aged woman, Zhang Shouyuan still ceaselessly struck out with his saber, and saber lights whistled out to sweep towards the middle-aged woman. With a raise of her hand, a spirit sword appeared in the middle-aged woman's hand, and her origin energy raged as sword concept followed like a shadow to obliterate Zhang Shouyuan's saber lights. The middle-aged woman's cultivation surpassed Zhang Shouyuan, and she'd already stepped into the 7th level of the void initiation stage. It wasn't just that, she'd even comprehended 6th level sword concept. Coupled with a grade 5 spirit sword, she suppressed Zhang Shouyuan. Second young master has really gone mad. She's his mother. Many Zhang clan members in the surroundings were dumbstruck when they saw this scene. The middle-aged woman that appeared now was none other than the wife of the Zhang clan's patriarch, Zhang Shouyuan's mother. Of course, this was the second wife of the Zhang clan's patriarch. The first wife was the mother of their Zhang clan's eldest young master, Zhang Shouyong, and she passed away from illness many years ago. Yuan, look clearly, I'm your mother. Every single time the middle-aged woman attacked, sword lights would arrive like a shadow and disperse Zhang Shouyuan's attacks. She ceaselessly wanted to rouse Zhang Shouyuan, yet Zhang Shouyuan utterly paid no attention to her. At this moment, Zhang Shouyuan seemed as if he'd gone mad. What exactly is going on? The middle-aged woman's expression was unsightly to the extreme, and she had no choice but to swing the spirit sword in her hand, causing dazzling sword lights to skyrocket to sweep towards her son, Zhang Shouyuan, and suppress him. Subsequently, she approached Zhang Shouyuan before withdrawing her sword and raising her hand to directly knock Zhang Shouyuan unconscious. The curtains to the farce had been drawn. On the other hand, the lake that waves ceaselessly surged gradually recovered its calm. Second mother. In the pergola at the center of the lake, Zhang Shouyong glanced indifferently at the middle-aged woman and nodded, and it could be considered as greeting her. What's going on? The middle-aged woman stared at Zhang Shouyong, and a trace of coldness seemed to jump about in the depths of her eyes as she asked with a low voice. Second mother is asking me, how would I know? Zhang Shouyong lightly shook his head as he spoke indifferently. You. The middle-aged woman's expression was unsightly to the extreme when she saw Zhang Shouyong speaking so half-heartedly, and she was angered to the point her body started trembling. The Duanling Tian that my son has always been shouting about ought to be this person by your side, right? In the end, the middle-aged woman's gaze descended onto the violet-clothed young man by Zhang Shouyong's side as she asked with a low voice. Exactly. Zhang Shouyong nodded, and then he lightly smiled as he looked at Duanling Tian. Brother Ling Tian, let me introduce you. This is the wife of our Zhang clan's patriarch, and she's also my second mother. Zhang Shouyong emphasized the two words second mother. Duanling Tian was able to discern that the relationship between Zhang Shouyong and this second mother of his didn't seem to be very good. Of course he didn't feel that Zhang Shou-yong was unfilial. Since this middle-aged woman appeared, knocked out Zhang Shou-yuan, and then spoke to Zhang Shou-yong, she'd always been arrogant and had a superior appearance. Even though he was only a spectator, he felt slightly uncomfortable in his heart. Perhaps, in the eyes of this woman, only a son that was related to her by blood was her son, and only then would she dote on him in every possible way. A son of her husband's ex-wife like Zhang Shou-yong was like a stranger in her eyes. So it's Madame Duan Lingtian greets you. Duan Lingtian glanced indifferently at the middle-aged woman as he spoke slowly. His tone didn't contain the slightest fluctuation of emotion, and it was as if he was speaking to an unimportant person. Duan Lingtian, right? The middle-aged woman stared fixedly at Duan Lingtian as she asked with a low voice. What exactly happened earlier? Why would my son be like that? All of this was caused by you? The middle-aged woman's words were filled with a questioning tone. If one didn't know better, one would think that she was interrogating a criminal. Duan Lingtian frowned. The middle-aged woman's arrogant manner made him very unhappy. However, when he heard the middle-aged woman's words, Duan Lingtian still smiled. Madam, you think too highly of me? Do you think that I have the ability to do that? The middle-aged woman took a deep breath, and the doubt in her eyes deepened. She still couldn't figure out what had happened earlier. How did her son suddenly become like that? Earlier, her son had been playing in the lake like a madman. It was more like a monkey for everyone to see. As his mother, she felt utterly embarrassed. Then why did my son call out your name? What happened before that? The middle-aged woman clearly did not intend to let Duan Lingtian off so easily, and she continued to question him in a low voice. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, was not surprised by the middle-aged woman's questioning. He said unhurriedly, I'll have to start from when I looked for Big Brother Zhang to reminisce about old times. Madam, do you want me to elaborate? When he reached the end of his sentence, Duan Lingtian glanced at the middle-aged woman with a faint smile on his face. Speak. The middle-aged woman grunted in a low voice. Duan Lingtian nodded, then slowly said, Today I came to the Zhang clan to reminisce about old times with Big Brother Zhang. Second young master's sudden arrival caused Big Brother Zhang and I to be slightly surprised. After Big Brother Zhang introduced me to Second young master seemed to be extremely interested in me, and he spoke of wanting to spar with me. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.